Everly. I don't think he should have let her go in the first place. He was the happiest with her. After her, I don't think I have ever seen him truly smile, Andrew said. I am happy she came back for him. Tom Hill threw Andrew a pensive glance. So you prefer her over Miss Davies? Tom Hill asked. Andrew didn't reply for about a minute. Then he looked at Tom Hill and held his gaze. Like I said, it's not my place to have an opinion on these things, he reaffirmed. Okay, Andrew, tell me one thing. Since you've known Dr. Everly the longest, hypothetically speaking, if Dr. Everly were to have a secret she shouldn't be keeping away from Nathaniel, why do you think she would refrain from telling him? Tom asked. That's easy. His temper would be my first guess, Andrew replied. His anger, Tom Hill repeated with a hint of skepticism. Nathaniel has a temper, but it isn't that bad, he scoffed. Then you haven't seen him react to anyone at all, touching Dr. Everly in any kind of way, Andrew replied with a chuckle. You are being serious? Tom Hill asked in disbelief. I saw him drag one of his best friends at the university once into a corner to warn him to quit using conversation to touch his girl. I must say the boy did overdo it sometimes, so then I understand. But they were friends, and he still didn't give a damn, Andrew said, chuckling. Which one of his friends? Ethan? Tom asked. The other one, Alexander, Andrew replied. Interesting, Tom Hill muttered to himself. He was overprotective and passionately possessive, and sometimes he didn't hide it. And I think that might scare someone like Dr. Everly, Andrew said. Do you think she could betray him if given enough incentive to do so? Tom Hill asked. I can't be 100% certain, Mr. Hill, but I would be surprised if she did. I saw them together. I don't think a couple like that are supposed to be apart, Andrew said. Well, this is a surprise. I didn't take you for a romantic, Tom Hill teased. Andrew chuckled. Just saying it the way I see it, Mr. Hill, Andrew replied. How long ago did their relationship end? Tom Hill asked, thinking of the twins' age. They were together for the entire graduation month, and when she started her residency working with Dr. Rowan. The boss stopped visiting her about 2 years after graduation. I may be wrong, but I think the relationship ended about 4 years ago. I can't tell when exactly it ended. We just stopped visiting her apartment. Dr. Everly came to see him one day, and he just refused to see her. I was beyond shocked, Andrew said. She came looking for him, Tom Hill asked. Andrew nodded. I saw her come twice. Charles saw her once. Then she stopped coming altogether, Andrew said. Tom Hill's eyebrows furrowed. He wondered if that was when Nathaniel missed being informed about Dr. Everly's pregnancy. He wondered if he should confront Dr. Everly and give her the chance to tell Nathaniel herself, or let Nathaniel know he had 2 sons as soon as he was out of danger. Upon getting to the hospital, the two went straight to Nathaniel's room. Opening the door, they saw Aria right there by his side, holding his left hand in hers. Aria directed her attention to the door when it opened and stood up as Tom Hill and Nathaniel's head of security walked in. You shouldn't be here, Aria said to Tom Hill with a tired smile. Hi, Andrew, she added. Good evening, Dr. Everly, Andrew replied with a blank stare. Good evening to you, Dr. Everly. I heard you've had quite a busy day. I had to come, Tom Hill replied. Aria let out a sigh and glanced back at Nathaniel's sleeping form before looking back at Tom Hill. How are you? She inquired. I am as expected. How are you? And him? Tom Hill replied. He is responding to treatment. He suffered a minor pulmonary embolism. There was, a blood clot blocking his lungs. But we were able to help him on time. He is on sedative now to make him rest and heal faster, Aria explained. How long has he been out? Tom Hill asked, as he walked to stand on one side of Nathaniel's hospital bed, automatically glancing at the wall clock hung against the hospital's white wall. Aria replied, 11 to 12 hours, I think. He should be up any minute now. Tom Hill nodded. Would you like me to take you home to shower and change, Dr. Everly? Andrew asked. Yes, Dr. Everly, you should go home and rest a bit, Tom Hill said, giving Aria a warm smile. Thank you, Andrew. You too, Tom, but I would like to see him wake up and speak before I leave, Aria said. Andrew nodded in understanding. Of course, Dr. Everly. Have you eaten anything today at all? Tom Hill asked and let out a sigh when her eyebrows furrowed. That's a no, then. If you have to pause to remember if you've eaten, then you haven't, Tom Hill said. Help me take her home, Nathaniel said, startling the three. Aria jerked her eyes to him and watched as he stared back at her. Nathan, Aria muttered and leaned over him. How do you feel? Does anywhere else hurt? How is your throat? How much pain are you in? Aria asked in a low, anxious tone. Nathaniel raised his hand to her face and slowly brushed the back of his hand against her cheek, making her eyes well with tears. I am fine and alive, thanks to you. Now you need to rest, or I will have to order Dr. Williams to admit you too. Let Andrew take you home. Nathaniel rasped. When Aria hesitated, he added, Don't worry, I promise I will still be here when you return. Aria nodded, aware that they were not alone, and slowly moved back from him. Glad to have you back, boss, Andrew said. Nathaniel nodded. Nathaniel waited for about 5 minutes after Aria had exited the room with Andrew before directing his gaze at Tom Hill. I leave you for just one night, Tom Hill said. The corners of Nathaniel's lips twitched in a smile, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. Shouldn't you be at the hospital, old man? Nathaniel asked. I would if you'd quit scaring everyone, Tom Hill replied. Nathaniel let out a sigh. We both can't break down at the same time, Tom, Nathaniel rasped. I know, hence why I'm here, Tom Hill replied. Nathaniel held his gaze for about a minute before he said, I want you to draft another contract, freeing Aria Everly from the previous one. A deafening pause ensued for about a minute before Tom Hill replied, Have you realized that was unnecessary, or do you want her to leave? Just do it, Tom, Nathaniel replied. And if she wants to stay? Tom Hill asked, trying to keep his emotions out of his voice, but it was hard. She won't. I will not let her have that option, Nathaniel said, looking away from Tom. Why? Tom Hill inquired. Why do you want her gone, Nathaniel? Nathaniel stared into nothingness, remembering the horror and then guilt on her face earlier that day. Her emotional state had given him the strength to hold on for her sake, but something also occurred to him. If he had died, even though it would be due to his prevailing condition, she would find a way to blame herself. Baby, I'm so sorry. Her anguished whisper when she had found him echoed in his head. Bringing her here was a mistake. I had no right to do that to her. To do this, Nathaniel said in a deep, husky voice barely above a whisper. So then what's your plan? Tom Hill asked. How do you intend to send her away to make her leave? I'm going to go to Riverview. By the time I return, she will be gone, Nathaniel replied. So let me get this straight. Just so we are on the same page, I should prepare a contract to annul the agreement for Dr. Everly to be your caregiver for 2 years. Give her the papers of the full debt payment for her hospital and house, and tell her her services are no longer needed while you run away to the country to hide like a coward, Tom Hill said in a low, calm tone. Nathaniel reverted a cold gaze at the older man. You think I'm running away? Nathaniel asked through gritted teeth. Yes, Nathaniel, I know you would be running away, and I would know because I have done it. I took the easiest way out instead of staying to fix my life. I ran, Tom Hill replied with a raised voice, then stopped, shutting his eyes in a bid to calm himself. His fists clenched by his sides. When he opened his eyes, Nathaniel was glaring at him. Do not for a minute think that I cannot fire you, Tom, Nathaniel growled. On the contrary, I know you can fire me. You just need to be angry enough. But before you run away to Riverview and leave me to tell the woman you love that you no longer need her, you and I need to go somewhere. There is something that I need you to see, Tom Hill declared. If your intention is to let me catch Julia fucking some asshole, you should know that I already know she isn't faithful, and I don't give a damn. I've always been cautious about protection with women, including Julia. So, health-wise, I know I'm covered. Beyond that, I couldn't care less. Nathaniel replied in a low, angry tone. I'm going to be dead, Tom. Not wanting to accept it wouldn't change a thing. She can be with anyone she wants. I don't care. Tom Hill was furious with him, and remembering what Andrew said about his reactions to anyone touching Dr. Everly, he said, How about Dr. Everly? Do you care if she has a man in her life? You know, if you keep driving her away, she will eventually move on, and indeed, screw whoever she wants. Tom Hill watched Nathaniel's eyes grow as cold as ice. Tom, I will admit you are like a father to me and have even played that role far better than my biological one, but I swear to God, if you ever say anything that disrespectful about my woman ever again, "I will knock the shit out of you," Nathaniel retorted. Tears blurred Tom Hill's eyes at Nathaniel's obvious giveaway. "Have I ever told you the story of how your father and I met?" Tom Hill began, and without waiting for an answer continued. "I was one of the top 10 students accepted into Oxford in my set that year, and my parents could afford it, at least they could until I was 2 years in, and they went bankrupt, just when I was set to start my life. I had a girl who loved me, my grades were great, I was one of the privileged a-holes. Life was perfect. And then, just like that, it was gone. I found that often happened to folks who are terrible at money management, like my father, a bad investment, and then, poof, everything was over. I met Hawthorne at a little gentleman's club in school. I was deep in the game of poker, cheating and pocketing all the wins. Your father stood by and watched me clean up the pockets of those rich, whiny little shits, and just stood there watching, smiling. However, my luck ran out, and I was caught. They beat the shit out of me, and he stood by and let me learn my lesson, or so he thought. He then helped me to the hospital. I woke up with him sitting in a corner reading a book. When he saw that I was awake, he stood up and left. He paid for my hospital bills, of course. What he didn't know at the time was that I had to engage in a little crime to be able to pay my way. So yes, I did not indeed learn my lesson. I continued to frequent every illegal game on campus and off campus until I crossed paths with some really mean bastards. They wanted me to pay for humiliating them and decided to break one of my legs and leave me there to die. I had one shot at calling someone for help. I called him, and he didn't disappoint me. He came to my rescue. But then he had to ask why I was trying to kill myself, and I had to tell him I was broke. My family was broke, and I would be damned if I was going to be an Oxford dropout and look like a loser to my girlfriend, Bella. He made me a promise, and that promise was simple. Stay out of trouble, and I will help you. And he did, but I had garnered enough reputation to be regarded as no good. Shockingly, Bella stood by my side, which was frankly terrifying. In my head, I had convinced myself that she couldn't possibly want the real me. I had nothing but Hawthorne as a friend. I had nothing whatsoever to offer. Consequently, when I accidentally found out she was pregnant before she could tell me, I assumed she didn't because she wanted to get rid of the child. I mean, why the hell would she want to have my child? I confronted her with the knowledge and accused her of it. She told me to get the hell out of her life. 5 years later, your father found out that I had a daughter. He took me there without warning me to see her and her mother. Sitting there in their perfect living room, in their perfect house, seeing my little girl happy in that lovely community, I still couldn't bring myself to feel like I deserved to be there, to be part of their lives. Do you know what I did, Nathaniel? I wrote a check, gave it to her mother, thanked her for accepting to see us, hugged my daughter, and walked out. I saw Bella's tears. I ignored them. I felt so damaged that I just couldn't accept that I belonged there with them. I still send checks. I have money now to send to them. I have plenty of money, and I'm still scared to feel secure and believe in her love for me. Bella never married. She still lives in that damn perfect house and calls me sometimes. All I need to do is meet her halfway, apologize, and just be a friend, at least. I was just so damn scared of never being enough. Don't be me, son. Don't be that coward, Tom said in a low emotional tone. Your father made certain that I was part of their lives because he knew it was important. I'm not going to let you give up your happiness. I'm not going to let you do it, Nathaniel. Nathaniel's heart tightened at Tom's pain and raced at what he was hinting at. He recalled Andrew and Charles's account of Aria disappearing on Madison Avenue, and his heart raced, but he contained his emotions, trying to process the information while focusing his attention on Tom's story. Where is it? The perfect house you mentioned, where your Bella and daughter live? Nathaniel inquired. Tom sighed. Buckhead in Atlanta, Georgia, he replied. Damn, Nathaniel remarked, eliciting a chuckle from Tom despite his mood. And where was your house? Highland Park in Dallas, Tom Hill said with a grin. Hope you still have it, Nathaniel asked. Tom nodded. First thing your dad made me buy back. I have a groundsman taking care of it with his family, he explained as he settled into a chair in the corner. Good. Would have suggested we buy up the entire town just to prove a point, Nathaniel quipped. Tom chuckled, shaking his head. You've got the rich a-hole personality down to a T, he remarked. Good. Would hate to ruin the stereotype. We should invite Bella for a date soon. Take her on a yacht trip and get lost long enough for you two to have a shouting match, Nathaniel suggested, trying to lighten the mood. You'd have to tie me up for that to happen, Tom replied, then paused to give Nathaniel a narrowed gaze. Don't go meddling now, he warned. Nathaniel blinked innocently, making Tom laugh. Little shit, he muttered to himself. This thing you want to show me, is it by any chance on Madison Avenue? Nathaniel suddenly asked. Tom met his gaze and nodded. Nathaniel took a deep breath and slowly exhaled, his eyes welling up with tears. She wouldn't dare keep that from me, Nathaniel rasped in a voice that was barely above a whisper. Thank you, Aria said to Andrew as the car came to a stop in front of Nathaniel's mansion. Another security man quickly approached to open the door for her, nodding respectfully as he said, Welcome, Dr. Everly. Aria offered a weary smile in return, noticing a subtle shift in the demeanor of Nathaniel's security personnel as she ascended the stairs. They all seemed to pause to watch her, which made her feel slightly self-conscious. Upon reaching the top stair, one of Nathaniel's men, Charles, called out to her. To Everly? Aria turned to meet his gaze. Thank you for the boss, he said to her. Aria gingerly acknowledged him with a nod. Thank you, Dr. Everly. Another guard chimed in. Thank you, Ma'am. Yet another joined in. Aria's gaze shifted from one guard to the next, nodding in acknowledgement before finally settling on Andrew, who offered her a respectful nod and warm smile. Aria felt tears welling up in her eyes. Amidst the emotional exchange, she noted that this was the first time she had seen Andrew smile, which softened his imposing presence. With a throat choked with emotions, she turned and entered the house, where the staff greeted her with similar warmth and gratitude. Mrs. Jonas was waiting for her with 10 housemaids to welcome her. Mr. Tom Hill called and said to make sure you eat, madam, Mrs. Jonas informed her, after Aria declined her offer of dinner. Okay, just a light dinner then, she replied amiably, before making her way upstairs. A few minutes later, Aria was soaking in the jacuzzi in her room, slowly scrubbing her skin, staring into space. Slowly the sponge slipped from her hand and she shut her eyes, allowing herself to break down. With her shoulders shaking, she cried in relief and anguish over Nathaniel's pain, recalling his unwavering gaze as she cut him open. His pain-filled grunts echoed in her ears now. She marveled at how she managed to hold herself together at that moment, knowing that the alternative was unthinkable. If Nathaniel had died that morning, her world would have been shattered. After a cathartic cry, she emerged from the bathroom wearing a bathrobe and found that Mrs. Jonas had sent food to her room. A side table was now laden with an array of dishes, offering her plenty to choose from. The enticing aroma filled her nostrils, and her stomach grumbled as she made her way to the table. Taking a seat, she selected a grilled shrimp, savoring the burst of flavor in her mouth. Settling onto the area rug by the table, she filled her plate and ate while lost in thought. Afterward, she was surprised at how much she managed to eat. Accustomed to cleaning up after herself, she gathered the leftovers and the plate and headed to the kitchen. Mrs. Jonas was the first to see her as she walked through the kitchen door, gasping in surprise, which prompted the other staff to rush over to take the tray from Aria. Madam, you shouldn't have, Mrs. Jonas said. It's okay, I wanted to thank you in person, Aria replied with a warm smile. As she left, she missed the appreciative smiles exchanged among the kitchen staff. Upon returning to her room, Aria video called her apartment, and her face lit up upon seeing her son's adorable faces on the screen. She dragged her fingers across the screen and brought them to her lips, pressing a kiss to them. Liam and Owen beamed back at her. Hello, my lovelies, she greeted them lovingly. Hello, Mommy, Liam said, waving. Hi, Mommy, Owen chimed in. Hey, Anita said from behind the boys, lowering her face between theirs to peer at Aria after planting kisses on each of their cheeks, which elicited giggles from the boys. Heard you had a pretty interesting day. How are you holding up? Anita inquired. Thank you, Anita. I'm okay and he is fine now, she replied, choosing not to elaborate further in front of the boys. Good, we'll talk when you come around, okay? Anita suggested. Yes, thanks. How's it going with these two? Aria asked, smiling. Oh, everything would be peach perfect if they'd stop trying to be mischievous little devils and give me a heart attack, Anita joked, making Liam and Owen laugh, and Aria's smile widened at the sight of her evidently happy sons. Okay, what did you two do to Aunt Anita? She asked, in a playful motherly tone. Aunt Anita said we get ice cream if we let her think she's smarter than us. Owen began, but Anita gasped in mock dismay. You're not supposed to tell her that. She's my employer, she protested. Both Liam and Owen chorused, oops, before peering at Anita with contrite expressions. Aria laughed. You start the story, Aunt Anita, Owen suggested as a peace offering. But I want to tell the story too, Liam interjected. Fine, we'll all take turns telling the story, but no snitching on me, Anita proposed, to which the boys eagerly agreed. After saying goodnight to her sons, Aria felt a sense of calm wash over her. She lay comfortably in bed, her gaze fixated on the closed adjoining door. There was something about it, even though she knew Nathaniel wasn't in his room, that unsettled her. Rising from bed, she went to open the door, wishing she had the power to pull it off of its hinges and have it thrown out. Sighing, she turned to leave, but caught sight of Nathaniel's now neatly made bed in the corner of her eye. Without hesitation, she found herself drawn to the big bed and gingerly lay down on it, basking in his familiar cologne. Curling up in the middle of the bed, surrounded by Nathaniel's comforting scent, Aria drifted off to sleep. The following morning, a subtle clearing of the throat roused her from slumber. Aria sat up abruptly, finding Tom Hill standing at the foot of the bed, one hand in the pocket of his tailored trousers and the other still in a cast. Tom Hill was always impeccably dressed, usually in well-tailored suits like Nathaniel, but today he wore a short-sleeved shirt over tailored trousers. Aria couldn't fathom how he had entered her room without knocking. Blinking, she stared at him as he smirked at her. Good morning, Dr. Everly. I trust you had a restful night. His deep, seasoned voice sounded in the room. Aria nodded, her attention drifting to something behind him. A floor lamp. A fixture she hadn't recalled being in her room. Glancing around, she realized she wasn't in her room at all. Oh, I'm so sorry. I came in here and... Aria started to apologize, scrambling off Nathaniel's bed, feeling terribly mortified. Please don't, Tom Hill interjected, gesturing as if to dismiss her apologies. It's understandable, don't worry, it'll stay just between us, he added with a reassuring smile. Aria stood awkwardly, suddenly unsure of how to position herself or what to do with her hands. Thankfully, she was dressed in pajamas and hadn't slept there in the nude, which would have been far more embarrassing. How is he? Nathaniel? Aria stuttered. He's fine. I came to get him a change of clothes, and I was hoping to have the file I entrusted you with back, Tom Hill explained. Oh, yes, of course, Aria replied, rushing back to her room to retrieve the file she had tucked away for safekeeping. Pausing for just a second, she wondered if she had done the right thing by not opening the file to check what was inside. Letting out a sigh, she hurried back to Nathaniel's room. Tom Hill accepted the file from Aria, noting that it appeared unopened. He leveled a pointed gaze at her. Don't tell me you weren't even curious enough to take a peek at the file, Tom Hill teased. I have my questions, but I suppose there's a reason Nathaniel trusts you, right? Aria replied. Tom Hill gave her a thoughtful scrutiny. Ask your questions, he invited. Aria felt slightly taken aback. She hadn't been expecting that. Nonetheless, she made herself ask the obvious question, giving him a keen scrutiny. Why didn't you entrust that with Nathaniel? Because I promised to keep the contents of the contract to myself and only disclose it when revealing the contents is extremely crucial, Tom Hill replied, with a gentle tweak at the corner of his lips. Promised whom? Aria inquired with raised eyebrows. Tom Hill's smile widened. I'm afraid I can't tell you that. You must agree that there are certain pieces of information one must carefully consider how to divulge, he replied. Aria's heart skipped a beat as she returned the older man's searching gaze. What exactly did he mean by that? She thought to herself. As long as the information doesn't hurt Nathaniel. I suppose I agree with you, Aria replied. In response, Tom Hill bowed with gentlemanly grace. That's my job, Dr. Everly, to make sure nothing or no one hurts Nathaniel Hawthorne. Aria couldn't help but feel that it sounded somewhat like a warning. Aria nodded. I should go freshen up, she said, gesturing to the adjoining door. May I ride with you back to the hospital? She added. About that, Tom Hill began, his voice trailing off as he walked to a side table and picked up a folder. He walked back to her and offered her the folder. Aria gingerly took it from him. Tom Hill offered her a pen as well, and Aria hesitated. What's this? She asked in a hesitant tone. Annulment of the contract that compelled you to stay on as Nathaniel's caregiver, Tom Hill supplied. Aria froze for about a minute, holding the man's gaze. I don't understand, she said in a voice that was barely above a whisper. Perhaps you will need time to go through it then, Tom Hill suggested, hating what he was doing but knowing better than to disobey Nathaniel at this point. You prepared this, right? Aria asked, feeling anger kindling inside her, and it was impossible to keep it from showing in her voice and eyes. Yes, Dr. Everly, I did, Tom Hill replied. So then you can summarize this for me? Aria insisted, her voice tinged with anger now. Tom sighed. Nathaniel changed his mind about forcing you to stay on as his caregiver and asked me to give you all the papers for your property and businesses. That's it, Tom Hill replied. And then? Aria prompted with raised eyebrows. I'm only doing my job, Dr. Everly, Tom Hill replied, seeing her anger increasing. Aria chuckled, the humorless kind. Come now, Mr. Hill, but don't worry, I will not put you in a bad spot, Aria said and heard her voice cracking. She took a deep breath and held out her hand to accept the pen. Tom Hill, seeing the anger and the determined gleam in her eyes, hesitated, thinking perhaps he was helping Nathaniel make more mistakes. Dr. Everly, he started to say, wanting to assure her somehow, but couldn't quite think of what to say without exposing what he knew. Aria didn't even give him a chance. She snatched the pen from his hand, opened the folder to sign it, and then offered the pen and folder back. You only need to give back the signed copy. Every other document in there is yours, Tom Hill replied, feeling unsettled by her silence. Aria calmly did what he said and turned away to leave. Panic seized Tom Hill. Where are you going? He asked. I'm packing my things and leaving, just like I guess he wanted, Aria replied over her shoulder. What? Tom Hill exclaimed in shock, making Aria pause her strides to look back at him. That's what this is about, isn't it? He wants me to leave, Aria retorted. While she was spot on, Tom Hill had hoped that she would take another perspective, considering Nathaniel was sick, and she had kept the knowledge of his children from him. He thought she clearly still had feelings for Nathaniel and would choose to stay, fight even, to be by his side, to keep her family together, not just do as Nathaniel wanted. Or was he wrong about Dr. Everly? Was Nathaniel right in his thinking that she didn't love him enough? Remembering Nathaniel's state of mind, if Dr. Everly also decided to do exactly as Nathaniel predicted, then it would give Nathaniel room to be as ruthless as he could with her, lashing out in anger, and he just knew there wouldn't be anything left to fix if he let their pride get the best of them both. I cannot boast as being that omniscient as to imagine that I can read Nathaniel's mind, or understand his motives, not to mention speak his mind. But perhaps you could take a minute to examine this matter differently. I understand your conclusion, but could it be that he is just giving you room to make the choice at your own free will? To either stay by his side in these crucial times or leave, making it clear you indeed do not give a damn, and his actions, forcing you to come here, were indeed justified. I have no idea what happened between you and Nathaniel, but I can see, along with everyone that has eyes, that you care about him. Or am I wrong? So then, would you really pack your bags and leave him? Earlier that morning, Nathaniel, Tom, and Dr. Williams waited in the car, strategically parked in an alley adjacent to Aria's rented apartment. The plan was for Andrew to go to the building in disguise and trigger the fire alarm. Andrew, an ex-serviceman, was expected to handle this task effortlessly. However, they had been waiting for close to 20 minutes, and Nathaniel was being eaten alive by anxiety. He had worn a hooded jacket to disguise himself, knowing he could still be recognized. They were on the brink of breaking the law, and Nathaniel couldn't afford to be caught on camera at the scene. Tom's insistence on waiting for a chance encounter was unacceptable. The waiting game was too excruciating. Nathaniel's frustration grew as he attempted to leave the jeep repeatedly, only to be thwarted by Tom's intervention. He shot Tom a stern glare, feeling the weight of anticipation bearing down on him. Tom's reluctance to divulge the details of their mission only added to Nathaniel's torment. If only the old man could provide clarity instead of leaving him in suspense. It was evident that the target wasn't Julia Davies. It had to be Aria. Restless, Nathaniel shifted in his seat. If he hadn't been sedated the night before, sleep would have eluded him entirely. During his brief moments of wakefulness, he tortured himself with conjectures. Was Aria harboring a lover or a child on Madison Avenue? The latter possibility terrified him more than the former. The thought of Aria having a child with another man stirred a cocktail of emotions within him. Anger, jealousy, and a deeper, unacknowledged fear. The blaring fire alarm shattered the silence, yanking Nathaniel's attention from his gloomy thoughts toward the building's entrance. Tom and William released a collective sigh of relief as the occupants of the building housing Liam and Owen spilled out onto the street. Nathaniel felt Tom's firm grip on his forearm as he spoke into the communication device Andrew had provided. "Now!" Tom exclaimed, and moments later the roar of helicopter blades echoed overhead. A sudden burst of light illuminated the faces of the gathering crowd, prompting gasps and irritated glances towards the hovering helicopter. "Nathaniel, to your left," Tom muttered beside him. "Good God," Dr. Williams exclaimed from the front seat. Nathaniel's heart stopped momentarily before resuming an erratic pace. He pushed the door open in a daze, and this time, Tom didn't try to stop him. Nathaniel looked even paler than usual, his lips slightly parted in shock. Nathaniel didn't realize he had moved. He just knew he seemed to be getting closer to the crowd until Tom came to block his way. Nathaniel furrowed his eyebrows in confusion and anger at the intrusion. "Get the hell out of my way," Nathaniel growled forcefully. "Nathaniel," Tom Hill started to say. "Those boys, they look just like me." "What the hell?" he whispered, his gaze fixed on the boys being carried by an older woman and a younger one who couldn't be more than in her 30s. Tears welled up in his eyes as he noticed the familiar facial features. "I can't tell them apart from here," Tom began, turning to face Nathaniel with his back to the crowd. "But I know one is Liam Hawthorne and the other is Owen Hawthorne," he supplied. "Hawthorne," Nathaniel repeated under his breath, his gaze intense. He then met Tom's eyes, his chest heaving. "How do you know this? When the hell did you find out?" Nathaniel growled in a low voice. Tom recounted his unexpected encounter with the boys. "Jesus," Nathaniel murmured. "That they are mine, aren't they? They are my sons, aren't they, Tom?" he asked in a low, almost pleading tone, hoping his words were true, wanting Tom to confirm it to him that Aria had had his sons. Tom Hill nodded. "What do you think?" Tom replied. "Look at them. And Liam, he knows who he is. He knows he is a Hawthorne," Tom added. "How could she?" Nathaniel rasped in utter shock, shaking his head in disbelief. "How could she keep my children from me?" Nathaniel muttered under his breath, as if thinking aloud, feeling sucker-punched. "We need to leave, Nathaniel," Tom Hill urged as Andrew appeared behind them. "Leave, leave! What the hell, Tom?" "Leave my sons," Nathaniel replied angrily. "The police will be here soon, boss." "We need to go," Andrew said from behind him. "You can't meet them like this, Nathaniel. We would have had a better chance if you had listened to my plan and waited," Tom Hill reasoned. Nathaniel wanted to argue, to tell him to go screw himself with his plans. But when one of the boys looked in his direction, he quickly turned away. With clenched fists, he stormed back to the jeep. Andrew rushed ahead to open the door and Nathaniel slipped into the car. Tom Hill joined him and Dr. Williams sat in the front passenger seat. Andrew slipped behind the wheel. "It's done. Return home," Andrew said into his walkie-talkie, and the floodlights and helicopter noise disappeared. Nathaniel looked at the crowd through the side window, now engulfed in the darkness of the early morning, feeling gutted. This is what she was afraid to tell me. This is what she meant in her message. This is the ace she had up her sleeve every time she assured me there was hope. Nathaniel muttered to himself, visibly anguished. Extracting bone marrow samples from the boys for donation is feasible, but it's crucial to verify their age first. Given their young age, the process will be delicate and require finesse. However, With Dr. Everly's expertise and her role as their mother providing support, we have a high chance of success, Dr. Williams explained enthusiastically. They are too young, so little, Nathaniel muttered. Yes, but we can, Dr. Williams started to reply. Can we not discuss harming my sons to save my life right now? I've just learned I have children, damn it, Nathaniel snapped, his emotions raw. I've missed out on 3 to 4 fucking years of my sons' lives. Can we not talk about extracting anything right now? Nathaniel was utterly devastated. Why would Aria do this to him? The thought resounded over and over in his head. Why would she make him miss so many years of his sons' lives? An awkward silence ensued. Panic surged in Nathaniel when Andrew started the engine and the car moved slightly. Stop, he roared. Get the fuck down, Andrew, and make sure they get back inside the building safely, Nathaniel ordered. Yes, boss, Andrew said and promptly got down. Tom Hill took his place behind the wheel. Sometime later, back at the hospital when Nathaniel had settled back in his bed, Tom Hill stood in a corner while Dr. Williams stood in another. They both waited for Nathaniel to decide the next move. Dr. Williams, thank you. You can leave us now. Whatever I decide, I will let you know before the end of today, Nathaniel finally said in a calm voice that worried Tom. The older men shared a look and Dr. Williams left. Nathaniel waited until they were truly alone before he said, Do you realize that if I hadn't forced Aria to come back here, I would have died like a dog and wouldn't have known she had my sons? Tom Hill grew uneasy. Whenever Nathaniel got so calm like this, it usually meant he was raging inside and often took drastic steps that were sometimes frightening. She must have her reasons, Nathaniel. Perhaps if you speak with her, Tom Hill quickly suggested. Speak with her? Aren't you listening to me? She kept my sons from me for 4 years. Isn't that clear enough? If I hadn't forced her to come to me, she would have let my children grow up without me. And for what? I loved her, Tom. I gave her my all, my heart, my body, the whole of me in entirety. I was prepared to give her everything, everything. And she chose to punish me by keeping my sons from me, Nathaniel raged. Nathaniel, you don't know that, Tom countered. He wanted to remind him of what Andrews said, that she had tried to reach him, and he hadn't let her. But he also thought that 3 years was a long time. Dr. Everly would have tried again to reach Nathaniel, but she didn't. Prepare that contract, Tom. Anal, the one forcing her to stay, give her back all her papers, Nathaniel started to say. Nathaniel's son, listen, Tom said. You really must make up your mind whose side you are on, Tom. Hers or mine? I am being quite generous to let her have back everything that could generate revenue to give her a fighting chance. Because rest assured, I will fight for the right to have my boys under my roof, Nathaniel retorted in a low, cold tone that heightened Tom Hill's concern. All right, how do we proceed? Tom Hill asked, seemingly resigned to the situation. We prepare the contract and have her sign it. Andrew should gather all possible information about Aria and my sons. Birth details, upbringing, the identity of those women, everything we can use against her if it comes to a custody battle, Nathaniel instructed. In the meantime, Tom inquired, ensure she receives the contract today. If I know her well enough, she'll leave. Have Charles tail her. She mustn't leave New York. If she tries, he has to call the police and inform you. I won't let her keep my children away from me for another day, Nathaniel replied in a cold, detached tone. And if she stays, Tom pressed, I know her. She'll leave once she receives that contract, Nathaniel stated confidently. Even with everything, your illness, knowing your children could be donors, you still think she'd just leave? Tom questioned, furrowing his brows. Nathaniel looked away, recalling her tears while caring for him and her words. If we wait, I will lose you. He supposed she might leave as she had done before when he made it clear she wasn't welcome. But now, with him sick, would she leave and take away his children? Aria Everly might seem arrogant and proud at times, but he didn't know her to be cruel. Yet she had kept his children from him. What kind of person does that? His mind was a jumble of questions, beginning to give him a headache. Waking up the previous day with her by his side, Nathaniel would have sworn she still had feelings for him, but now he was confused and hurt. He had trusted that she would never intentionally hurt him, not realizing she was doing just that. Give her the contract and let her decide the next step, Nathaniel replied. Tom Hill nodded and headed to the door. "Can we get pictures of them, please?" Nathaniel requested, causing Tom Hill to pause in his stride and look back at him. "I suppose we'll have plenty once we take our next step and Dr. Everly knows we know about them," Tom Hill said. "Don't let her know yet. Let her take the steps to decide how we should proceed. I forbid you, Tom, to interfere. I will not beg for her love. I will not beg for the right to be with my sons." "Do you understand me?" Nathaniel asserted. "Yes, I understand," Tom Hill replied. "And I'll inform Charles that if he gets a chance to take pictures of the boys, he should do so," Tom added. Nathaniel nodded and looked away. "Nathaniel?" Tom Hill called, prompting Nathaniel to direct his dark gaze at the older man. "Congratulations, son," Tom Hill said with a warm smile. Nathaniel gave him a jerky nod, his eyes blurring with tears, his lips trembled. After Tom left, Nathaniel released a shaky breath and allowed the tears to cascade down his face. Why would Aria do this to him? Was it payback for him refusing to see her back then? Whatever her reason, he resolved not to let her off easy. If she left the house, as he knew she would, he would unleash the Nathaniel Hawthorne she knew and despised, and see how long she lasted before begging him for forgiveness. Standing there, waiting for her answer, Tom Hill silently prayed that Dr. Everly would be the woman he'd imagined her to be, and made the right choice to make it easy for them all. Aria struggled visibly. She was upset with Nathaniel for the messed-up games he seemed to be playing with her. When he'd woken up, the way he had reacted to her, she'd been relieved that he hadn't held her negligence to open the adjoining door against her. He'd seemed almost tender even, and now this. Aria looked away from Tom, not wanting him to see her frustration and anguish. Perhaps Nathaniel had somewhat caught a glimpse of how torn she was at the idea of him dying. Perhaps he'd seen her struggle through her eyes, that she still loved him and he wanted her gone, so she wouldn't create more problems for him. Otherwise, why was he doing this? Tom Hill was right. She had simply reacted in anger. Besides, she couldn't really leave. There's still the issue of Nathaniel's health and their sons. Regardless of what Nathaniel was playing at, she needed to do the right thing by telling him about their sons and looking into the possibility of Liam and Owen helping to save their father. She let out a sigh, knowing she couldn't keep the secret any longer. "I was wondering, ever since I met you, I have seen the way you treat Nathaniel like a son, and I had been meaning to share something with you, but I am not going to lie. I am scared to make a mistake," Aria said to Tom Hill, making his heart pick up speed. Could she be trying to tell him about her sons? Tom Hill's heart leapt with hesitant joy as he watched her. "You are not sure if you could trust me?" Tom Hill inquired. Aria pressed her lips together in a sheepish smile. "Yes, because I'm in desperate need of advice from someone who knows Nathaniel better than me," Aria said, giving Tom a keen scrutiny. Tom Hill nodded in understanding. He then walked back to the chest he had dropped the file Aria had given him earlier and opened it. Walking back to meet her, he offered the file to her. Aria looked from him to the file and furrowed her brow. "I thought you said that was confidential," Aria said. "It is," Tom Hill said simply, giving Aria a meaningful stare. "It's important Nathaniel does not find out about this yet, because he would be angry with me and want to teach everyone involved not to mess with the Hawthorne name. The calm Nathaniel is deadly and calculative, a bit reasonable too. Now the angry Nathaniel is another matter. In that mode, he always has his own way of handling things, which often are far excessive. More like kicking an already dead dog kind of thing," Tom said. Aria nodded. "So then, if I can trust you with this secret, you can trust me with whatever you want to seek advice for," Tom Hill said. Aria smiled and let out a sigh. "It's okay, Mr. Hill, you don't have to," Aria said. "I insist," Tom Hill said. Aria chuckled and looked through the files, noting it was a transfer of share rights from John Davies to Nathaniel Hawthorne. A frown creased her forehead. Nathaniel's father had this rule while taking on shareholders for Farmer Hawthorne. The Hawthorne brand reputation is taken pretty seriously, and shareholders are made to sign a contract before being given the right to buy shares in the company. The rule was simple. No shareholder is to be involved in any criminal activities that would damage the brand's reputation. Nathaniel's father made me the executioner for that particular clause, and I found out that John Davies had indeed violated that rule, not once, not twice. You get the gist?" Tom Hill said. Aria nodded with furrowed brows. When Julia Davis showed interest in Nathaniel, I was naturally worried, but Nathaniel didn't seem to mind, Tom Hill said, watching Aria's face, studying her quietly as he divulged the information. But I uncovered more things about the Davies, and I knew if I let them keep getting away with things, Nathaniel will pay for it, along with every shareholder of Farmer Hawthorne. Now there's a clause. Although not illegal, and just based on moral standards, even though the Hawthorne family owns Farmer Hawthorne, no Hawthorne is allowed to have more than a certain share value of the company to curb veto power dynamics. I broke that moral point when I offered to buy John Davis's shares back for the Hawthornes when I should have let Nathaniel handle it and go through the right process by announcing the auction of the Davises' shares and letting it be shared or bought equally among the shareholders, or bringing a new player to the table. But trust me, I have a solid reason, Tom explained. Can John Davies decide to break confidence and inform Nathaniel? I mean, he will soon be his father-in-law, Aria asked. The mere fact that he is in that position and did what he did would make Nathaniel way angrier. Davies would face public humiliation, and Nathaniel would not be as cordial as I am, Tom Hill replied. I should warn you, though, Nathan suspected that something was underway. That was why he brought in many guards to the hospital. Are you in danger, Mr. Hill? Aria said. Tom smiled. Nathaniel is naturally protective of the people he considers family, he replied, ignoring the question. Aria nodded knowingly. I see. Why didn't you want the shares auctioned off? Aria asked. She would have been concerned if Tom Hill had bought the shares for himself, but he had bought them back for Nathaniel. The way the power dynamics are now at the company with Nathaniel's parents gone, the only person whose loyalty is guaranteed is me. I am also part of the shareholders, and I am aware a few of them would like to take Nathaniel's seat. And that's something I cannot let happen, Tom Hill said. Aria nodded. Thank you for sharing this with me, even though I would have told you what I wanted anyway, Aria said with a smile. Tom Hill chuckled. So do you trust me enough now to share what's on your mind? Tom Hill asked. Aria let out a sigh. I'm not sure how else to phrase it except to simply say it. After my relationship with Nathaniel ended 4 years ago, I discovered I was pregnant. Although I wasn't aware at the time, I found out a few days later, Aria said. Tom Hill stood still. Even though he already knew about the boys, he was happy that Dr. Everly had thought to tell him anyway, and he regretted that she hadn't before he found out and told Nathaniel. Perhaps things would have panned out differently. Why didn't you tell him? Tom Hill asked. Aria shrugged. I tried. He refused to see me, which was justified at the time. After trying for a while, I gave up and went home to Sylvan Ridge. It happened at the same time I lost my father, and I was an emotional wreck. I was grieving and heartbroken. At some point, I just decided to focus on making sure I built a life for my child. Then I found out that I was having twins, boys, she said in a shaky tone and chuckled. I was scared and excited and alone, she added, in a voice that was almost a whisper, her fear evident. Nathaniel had made it clear he didn't want me, and I just didn't want to seem pathetic by forcing him to take me back because I was pregnant. I had to let him go and face my fate, she said. Tom Hill listened with furrowed brows, understanding her perspective. She had let go so as not to seem as if she was trying to trap Nathaniel. Nathaniel had let go because he thought she didn't love him enough. I will not beg for her love, Nathaniel's words resounded in his head. My sons are here in New York, staying with my aunt and close friend. They will turn 4 in a few days, and I believe they can help their father. However, I'm unsure how to break the news to Nathaniel, as I fear he will view it as another sin of mine and may even try to take them away from me out of spite, Aria said in a low, emotional tone. First, congratulations on the boys. I am happy to find out that Nathaniel will not be the last Hawthorne, and you are right. Nathaniel will be upset, but that will not be the problem, Tom Hill said, giving Aria a keen scrutiny. It's not, Aria repeated, noting the older man didn't appear surprised or show any emotion at all at her revelation. No, it is not. The problem would be how you would react to his onslaught of retaliation, Tom Hill said. Aria swallowed hard. You are saying once I tell him, I cannot walk away, no matter what? Aria inquired in a shaky tone. her heart racing at the older man's unspoken words. "Can I ask you one thing, Dr. Everly?" Tom Hill said instead of answering her question. Aria nodded in encouragement. "Do you want Nathaniel Hawthorne back?" Tom Hill asked. Aria's eyes blurred with tears. "I cannot force a man to be with me, Mr. Hill," Aria said in an emotional whisper. "That wasn't the answer, Dr. Everly. Do you want Nathaniel Hawthorne? Do you want your family together with the man you clearly love?" Tom Hill asked. "Yes, I want Nathaniel back. I want my boys to have him in their lives. But if he pushes me away," Aria started to say in a passionate tone, but Tom Hill cut her short with a firm reply. "Then you fight. You fight, Dr. Everly, unless, of course, you believe he isn't worth it," Tom Hill said in a firm, no-nonsense tone. "He's worth it," Aria breathed. Tom Hill broke into a triumphant grin. "Can I have that back, please?" Aria said, gesturing to the contract annulment agreement she had just signed. Tom Hill handed it back to her, though he wasn't sure why she had asked for it, until she yanked it from him and tore the paper into shreds, the corner of his lips tweaked in an amused smile. "I suppose this means you are not agreeing to be set free from the previous contract, Dr. Everly," Tom Hill quipped. Aria shrugged. "I let him go once. I would like to try something different this time. Unless I find out he doesn't love me anymore, then I will leave. Right now, Mr. Hill, could you please let Nathaniel know that I really hate it when he feels he can just do whatever he likes and get away with it. He disrupted my life to bring me here to be his caregiver for 2 years, and I had agreed and got paid for it. Since I do not intend to return the money, as it's been committed to the necessary preparations to ensure I stay on as his caregiver for 2 years, I am morally bound to stay on as his caregiver for the period formally agreed upon," Aria said. Tom Hill smiled, listening. "Also, can you let Dr. Williams know that I would like to see him? Whenever he is free, I would like him to meet Liam and Owen Hawthorne. Of course, after I survive telling Nathaniel I have his sons," Aria added. Tom Hill chuckled. "Yes, madam, I would be honored to relay your message to Nathaniel Hawthorne and Dr. Williams, but I would rather you tell them yourself, and there's no time like now," Tom Hill replied. "Although we should probably warn Nathaniel about his sons before you bring them to the hospital," Tom Hill advised. Aria nodded and released a shaky breath. "He's going to kill me," she thought to herself. But Tom Hill was right. There was no time like the present. Nathaniel needed to undergo the transplantation procedure soon before his condition worsened further, and his body grew too weak to survive the pre-transplantation preparation, let alone the procedure itself. "Please give me a minute," Aria said. "I'll be downstairs," Tom Hill said, and left. Aria quickly went through her morning ritual and made sure she called her aunt before heading out. "His lawyer thinks it's best I tell him today. If you don't hear from me before the end of today, just please take care of my sons," Aria explained. Her aunt chuckled. "It's for the best, honey. The boys need their father, and he needs to be healthy and alive to look out for them. Regardless of what happened, you shouldn't take that away from them," her aunt advised. Aria sighed. "Yes, auntie," she replied. "Would you like to talk to them?" "Although they're in their reading room now with Anita," her aunt asked. "No, let them be. If I know Nathaniel well enough, I'm certain they'll be staying here tonight." "I'll talk to you later, auntie," Aria replied. "All right then. Whatever happens, stay calm. There's no right or wrong. Remember, you're doing this for you and the boys," her aunt reminded her. A few minutes later, the car parked in front of the hospital and Aria let out a sigh. It's now or never, she thought to herself. Nathaniel felt trapped in his body, the hospital room walls closing in on him. He'd always thought he was fairly decent at playing the waiting game, but the past 24 hours had proven otherwise. Strategizing and slowly closing in on his target had always been fun, but now, with his heart literally on the line, it felt suffocating. He was angry with Aria, extremely so. Though he had asked Tom Hill to set her free of the contract, the thought of her taking the bait tormented him. And then there was the case of his boys. He couldn't get their faces out of his head. He longed to meet them, to hold them, to keep them safe. He hadn't even met them, yet he already loved them, and knew he would give up his life for them. The nurse, Dr. Williams, sent to check his blood pressure, let out a sigh as she looked at the numbers, but she didn't say a word. As soon as she left, Nathaniel resumed his pacing. He had thought to call Tom, but he didn't want him to know he was on edge. The last thing he wanted was for Tom to start meddling, and he feared he might let something slip and alert Aria. Aria was astute and intelligent. One word out of line, and she would catch on. A gentle tap on the door made him stop pacing, and he watched as Tom peered inside. Nathaniel's heart skipped a beat. Tom came in and shut the door behind him. "Is it done?" Nathaniel asked. "Yes, but," Tom said, bringing out the shredded paper. Nathaniel's heart raced. "She tore it?" he asked, trying to keep his emotions out of his voice. Tom nodded. "She's here, outside, waiting to see you," he replied. "Did you tell her?" Nathaniel inquired in a cold tone. Tom threw him a puzzled stare. "Tell her what?" he asked. "Why didn't she sign the damn papers, Tom?" Nathaniel snapped with suspicion. Before Tom Hill could reply, the door was pushed open again and Aria appeared inside. "Could you wait outside, please?" Nathaniel said to her, almost in an angry growl, his voice cold and authoritative. Aria ignored him and stepped inside, shutting the door behind her. "I see you feel better," she said. "Aria," Nathaniel called in a warning tone. "Ah, I see you have the remains of your contract too. Great," Aria said. Nathaniel leveled a cold gaze at her. "What are you doing? Are you deaf? Didn't you hear what I just said?" Nathaniel said in an uppity tone that grated at Aria. "I heard you, Nathaniel Hawthorne, but since I don't believe in the concept of killing the messenger, I decided to face the one who sent him," Aria replied. Nathaniel narrowed his gaze at her, giving her a keen scrutiny, wanting to know if Tom had told her he knew what she had done, and if all of this was mere acting. "Why didn't you sign the contract? Is it because he told you I know?" Nathaniel replied. Aria's eyebrows furrowed. "Know what?" she said, looking from him to Tom in bemusement. Nathaniel watched them both, wanting to catch them in their deceit. "Nathaniel, perhaps we should talk first. Alone?" Tom Hill said, giving him a hard, penetrating stare. "So then you expect me to believe the reason why she didn't sign the damn contract wasn't because you told her that I know she's been hiding my sons?" Nathaniel snapped, not wanting to be made to look like a fool. "What?" Aria breathed. Tom Hill felt like doing Nathaniel real bodily harm as he let out a string of expletives. He didn't dare look at Dr. Everly. He could just imagine what she must be thinking of him. He leveled his gaze at Nathaniel, who seemed to be grasping that he had just made a major blunder, but his eyes hardened regardless, and he met Tom Hill's cold stare head-on. "Wow," Aria said under her breath. "So then you didn't tell her, so why the hell didn't you sign the contract, Aria?" Nathaniel snapped. "Dr. Everly," Tom Hill started to say, wanting to explain to her that he wasn't supposed to let her in on that particular information, but Aria didn't give him the chance. She looked hurt, and it made him feel terrible. Don't bother. I understand I'm just a stranger. Your loyalty lies with him. Why should you give a damn about me when he doesn't?" Aria said, her hurt and disappointment evident in her tone. Nathaniel threw her a searching gaze, noting she wasn't acting, and neither was Tom. The older man looked pretty pissed at him and embarrassed by his exposure. Good, Nathaniel thought to himself. He hated how Tom was getting a tad chummy with her anyway. Aria rummaged through her handbag, took out a photo album, and placed it on the hospital bed. "I made this thinking you might be interested one day in learning about them," Aria said, trying not to cry. Tom Hill's betrayal hurt, and having Nathaniel show nothing but animosity was drowning her too. She had expected him to be angry with her. She just hadn't expected such an elaborate ruse like this to expose her. Maybe when she had time to think about it, she would come to the conclusion that she might in some ways deserve it, but right then, she was hurting. "When?" Nathaniel asked, making her meet his cold gaze. "When exactly did you plan to afford me such a chance, Aria? When I'm dead?" Nathaniel growled. "Nathan," Aria started to say, but was cut off with a sharp rebuff. "I could never have believed you would be capable of something like this. How could you do this? Do you hate me this much, that you would keep my children from me for 4 goddamn years?" Nathaniel ranted in a low, forceful tone. It was clear he was mad at her, and she understood his anger, but it wasn't like he didn't have his own share of the blame. "I tried to tell you," Aria screamed at him. You turned me away. What was I supposed to do, beg for your attention? Aria whimpered. Nathaniel's eyes grew even colder. No, but you will. I am going to file for full custody of my children, and I want you out of my life, Nathaniel declared. Aria gasped in shock. Tom Hill wanted to speak, especially when Dr. Everly threw a bewildered, pleading glance in his direction, but he knew better. When Nathaniel gets like this, it's best to shut up and let him rant, because any wrong word would only make him stand firm on his decision. Aria moved close to Nathaniel, looking up into his eyes, remembering what her aunt had said, letting the words repeat in her head. Otherwise, she would have lunged at him. Aria let down her guard, remembering the reason he'd walked away before was because she made him believe he wasn't worth it. Now she let her fear show. She let her tears spill down her face as she said to him, "You should kill me. That's the only way you would succeed in separating me from our sons, Nathan," she whispered. Nathaniel's heart stopped beating for a second before it resumed its erratic pace. The cocktail of raw emotions in her eyes made his heart constrict. "You are prepared to fight me, then?" "Me? Nathaniel Hawthorne? For my children?" Nathaniel taunted. "With everything I've got," Aria breathed. "Ha ha!" Nathaniel laughed in utter derision. "Dr. Everly, you cannot begin to comprehend how fast I can erase a little nobody like you from existence." Nathaniel growled in a low, forceful tone. "I have always been scared, Nathan, for the day you would look at me the way you are doing now and speak to me in that tone, letting me know I am small compared to you. But there's something you should know. For my sons, I will fight you till the last drop of my blood, even if it kills me," Aria replied in a whisper. "Leave us, Tom," Nathaniel ordered. The two didn't break eye contact even for a second. When Nathaniel heard the door click shut, he raised his right hand to grab Aria by the throat, making her tremble at the warm feel of his hand against her skin. His hold on her was firm but not hurting. He lowered his head to bring his face closer to hers, peering into her eyes as he said, "When you threaten me, my love, you better mean it, 'cause I will tear you apart if you dare to stand in my way of being with my sons." Huge drops of tears formed in her eyes, her heart breaking, as the tears streamed down the sides of her upturned face. "The last thing you want to do, baby, is to make me your enemy," he rasped coldly. "That isn't what I want, Nathan," Aria whispered with feeling. "What then do you want? Because I will not let you keep me from my children," Nathaniel retorted through gritted teeth. "I have no intention of keeping them from you. I told Tom I wanted to tell you and him. I just didn't know how," Aria said. "Don't lie to me," he growled. "If I hadn't brought you here, you would still be in Alaska with my sons, making them live without me," Nathaniel growled in anger. "You made it clear that you wanted me out of your life, Nathan," Aria replied. "You, not my sons," Nathaniel retorted sharply. Aria felt her heart tighten painfully. More tears spilled down her face as she gave him a searching gaze. "I'm sorry then. I don't have to be part of your life. But what would never change is that Liam and Owen are mine too," Aria said. Nathaniel let her go and moved back. Aria felt like crawling to a dark corner to scream in agony at his blatant rejection, but she tried to be strong, at least. "You should get a lawyer," Nathaniel said over his shoulder. "Nathan!" Aria called in a pleading tone. He turned around to face her, looking at her with cold eyes. "I know you are angry with me, and it's okay, but please think of Liam and Owen and your health," she said. "Don't act like you give a damn about me, Aria," Nathaniel snapped. "Please, Nathan, don't do this. They are our babies. All they'd ever know is love, not hate, not anger, just love. Please don't drag our sons into this drama. Do whatever you want with me. I wronged you. Please leave our babies out of it," Aria pleaded. Nathaniel felt flawed in the face of her love for the sons she had for him. He turned his back to her, feeling torn. The Aria he knew would not beg. He hadn't been expecting her to be like this, and he didn't know how to handle it. "Nathan, please don't do this," Aria whispered. "I'll do anything. Just stop, please, baby, please," Aria pleaded. "Do you think Julia Davies would make a great stepmom?" Nathaniel suddenly asked. Aria's heart skipped a beat. She rushed to stand in front of him, looking up into his face, and said, "Nathan, I would never interfere with your happiness, nor do I have the right to dictate who you choose to be with. But that woman dislikes me. I'll never forgive you if you grant her unrestricted access to our boys, allowing her to hurt them out of spite." Tears streamed down her face. "Nathan, please," she whispered. "They're so young and innocent. Please don't let them suffer," she added, her voice trembling with emotion. "I'll relocate permanently to New York. We can continue living in that apartment on Madison Avenue, just a stroll from your house. I'll keep myself scarce whenever you want to see them. I'll do anything you ask, Nathan. Please don't punish our babies because of me," she pleaded. "I can't let you stay on Madison Avenue when my children's last name is Hawthorne, Aria," Nathaniel replied, silently studying her. The only other time he had seen her appear this vulnerable was when she'd first told him she loved him. "Nathan, don't do this," Aria replied, thinking he'd made up his mind to fight her in court to keep the boys in his house. "Marry me," Nathaniel rasped. Aria froze, giving him a searching gaze. "What?" Aria said in a whisper. "You don't approve of Julia being our children's stepmom. You said I have to kill you to separate you from our sons. You also said you would do anything for us not to go to court and put our sons through a custody battle. Did I miss anything, my love?" Nathaniel said. Aria couldn't find words. "So then the solution is for you to marry me, do you accept?" Nathaniel asked. Aria felt dazed. Did Nathaniel Hawthorne just ask her, Aria Everly, to marry him? "Do you accept to marry me, Ariana?" Nathaniel rasped, stepping closer to her. Aria frantically searched his gaze in utter disbelief. 5 years ago, graduation, morning. "It's time to wake up now, sleeping beauty." Aria heard a deep, husky tone say close to her ear, warm breath fanning the shell of her ear as she slowly opened her eyes. She blinked, seeing a pair of grey eyes peering into hers. It took a moment before her scrambled brain registered who they belonged to. Her eyes widened in utter dismay, and she gasped in shock. Before she could react, Nathaniel chuckled and moved away, confirming his suspicion that she had been too drunk a few hours before to know what she was doing when she kissed him. Aria scrambled off the bed in haste and fell to the side with a gentle thud. "Ouch!" she groaned in pain as she hit her head. "Where the freaking hell am I?" she exclaimed, managing to get up to her knees and peering at Nathaniel, who emerged from a side room carrying a neatly hung white shirt and tie. He had nothing on but black pants, and Aria couldn't help trailing her eyes up his breathtaking length. "Oh dear Lord, it's Nathaniel Hawthorne," she thought to herself in alarm. "What am I doing alone in a room with the most notorious womanizer in Harvard? You're going to be late if you don't get in the bathroom now," Nathaniel said nonchalantly over his shoulder, not bothering to look at her. "What did you do to me? Why am I here, wherever here is, with you?" Aria said in disbelief. Nathaniel, catching the disgust in her voice, felt the sting more than he should. "Don't flatter yourself. The only thing I did was let you crash in my room. Ethan, Alexander, and Anna are also here," Nathaniel said as he slipped on a white vest before starting to wear his shirt. "I would really like you to consider taking my offer to bathe or whatever you want to do. Join the others for breakfast before we head back to campus, or I could have one of my men take you to your house. Your choice, but be quick with it. I want my room to myself, if you don't mind," Nathaniel said in a non-committal tone. Aria felt her face burn with embarrassment. Of course, Nathaniel Hawthorne hadn't ravished her. This wasn't some morning-after kind of cheesy rendezvous from a romance novel. This was Nathaniel Hawthorne, the somewhat demigod of Harvard University, and she was, what? Aria Everly, a nobody from a small town in Sylvan Ridge. She groaned as some of the events of the night before started to come back to her. Ethan had invited her to a party, and just as always, when she talked herself into thinking she needed a break, she honored his invite. And now, here she was, hiding by Nathaniel Hawthorne's bed. She remembered her last encounter with Nathaniel Hawthorne back at Ethan's birthday party, and that made the situation even worse. She had vowed to avoid him entirely for the rest of her school days at Harvard, and had made certain to let Ethan know she didn't want to be around him. He had bullied her because she hadn't fallen all over him like every girl on campus used to do. and he had taken offense and reacted like the douchebag she'd always thought him to be. He had kissed her, which had both excited and scared her. She had seen him several times on campus, always distracted by some girl, never noticing her. He had walked past her once in the school lecture hall and looked through her. Having him take offense at her brushing off his hypocritical greeting was a shock, and he had the audacity to kiss her as if she were a mere object of pleasure to amuse himself with. She had been livid. She was far from those empty-headed girls he strutted about with, and the last thing she wanted was for their school friends to think she was one of his groupies. She had reacted by slapping him, totally regretting it immediately, but he had shown she was right about him with the way he had reacted. And now, by some stroke of bad luck, she was in a room alone with the same idiot. How the hell did that happen? Why did I take that damn drink from Ethan? She groaned to herself. I was wondering the same thing. For such a judgmental girl, that was pretty dumb, Nathaniel remarked. Aria glowered at his muscled back. Nathaniel Hawthorne possessed an extraordinary physique that consistently captivated her, and at that moment she found herself unable to resist admiring his stunning figure. It seemed that whenever she encountered him, he was invariably partially unclothed. He had gained a reputation as a womanizer, frequently seen in intimate situations with various women. Strangely, Aria always felt a sense of disdain witnessing such encounters. He embodied the stereotype of the conventionally handsome man, although he deviated from the typical blonde archetype with his long dark hair styled in a man's bun, with stray strands cascading over his left temple. If perfection existed, it would surely resemble Nathaniel Hawthorne. How he managed to bag a course in health science was beyond her. Ethan swore he was brilliant, a genius even, but Aria seriously doubted it. With the amount of time he spent partying, when exactly did he even have time to read? Angry at his tone and not wanting a repeat of what happened the last time they saw each other, she growled under her breath, got up and marched towards a door she assumed was his bathroom. Wrong door. The next one, Nathaniel said from behind her. Aria didn't reply. She automatically turned and headed to the other door. Entering the bathroom, she locked the door and double-checked before letting out a sigh. She caught a glimpse of her face and hair in the wall-length mirror and groaned in embarrassment. She looked like she had just survived a fight with a raccoon, and Nathaniel Hawthorne had seen her that way. And why that bothered her irritated her more. Avoiding looking at herself, she surveyed the room and rolled her eyes at the obvious display of wealth in the luxurious space. It was big enough to be someone's dorm and had both a jacuzzi and a shower stall. A scene of Nathaniel Hawthorne in the tub or shower stall with some girl flashed in her head, and a frown furrowed her eyebrows at how seeing him with other girls always seemed to get to her. The bathroom smelled strongly of his signature cologne, just like it always did everywhere he had been. She remembered how it always made her feel when she entered a room and could smell his presence. She unconsciously inhaled, taking in the scent before slowly exhaling. It was a rich blend of cedarwood and the outdoors with a slight spicy tinge that was quite stimulating. She was convinced that the cost of his cologne alone could cover a year's worth of tuition. Harvard was a school filled with brilliant minds and legacy students from wealthy backgrounds, and according to the poll, Nathaniel Hawthorne was in the top 3 wealthy legacies, punctuated by the number of bodyguards annoyingly following him around. They pretended to blend in by wearing regular clothes like the students, but who wouldn't notice hefty guys in their 30s with communication devices jutting out from their ear to their mouth, parading everywhere Nathaniel Hawthorne went? Aria hesitated for a moment beside the shower stall, contemplating the intimacy of stripping down and bathing in Nathaniel Hawthorne's bathroom. "Hey, you okay in there?" A gentle knock, followed by Nathaniel's impatient voice, jolted her out of her reverie. "Yeah," she called out and began to undress. Later, when she emerged wearing one of Nathaniel's bathrobes, he was no longer in the room. Her eyes landed on a spread of white sweatpants on his bed, accompanied by a note written in elegant cursive handwriting. 2 options: wear your smelly dress or the sweatpants. Don't worry, it's not a hand-me-down. Idiot, Aria muttered to herself, annoyed at his comment about her dress. She raised the dress to her nose and gagged at the stale smell of alcohol emanating from it. Asshole, she muttered in frustration, opting for the sweatpants instead. They still had their tags on, but the price had been crossed out. She removed the tag and hastily put on the sweatpants, which surprisingly fit her perfectly, their soft woolen fabric feeling divine against her skin. Using one of Nathaniel's combs, Aria brushed out her still damp curls before mustering the courage to leave his room, holding her neatly folded clothes in one hand and her shoes in the other. Finding her way down to the open-floor living room was straightforward. She simply followed the sounds of laughter and the scent of breakfast. Nathaniel's place struck her as overly spacious for just one person, but she knew he could afford it. She guessed it must be one of his father's properties lying around, or Nathaniel had chosen to rent it for the duration of his studies. Upon reaching the stairs that led to the living room, she glanced down and spotted Nathaniel and Ethan behind a kitchen counter to her left, with Anna and Alexander on the other side, enjoying their meal. The counter was laden with food, bacon, omelettes, pancakes, sausages, sliced fruits, grapes, and more. Nathaniel was the first to spot her descending the stairs, their eyes locking and holding, his heart quickening at the sight of her freshly showered with wet hair, pink lips, and eyes like an enchantress. The others noticed Nathaniel's gaze and followed suit. "Look who's finally up," Anna quipped. "Lightweight," Alexander interjected, faking a sneeze. Anna laughed. "Nah, she was brave." "I still feel messed up," Ethan chimed in, eliciting laughter from everyone except Nathaniel, who forced himself to shift his focus to his coffee. "I'll never drink anything blindly from you again, even if you call me Debbie Downer," Aria grumbled playfully, prompting laughter from Ethan, Alexander, and Anna. "Coffee?" Nathaniel asked, still avoiding eye contact. "Yes, thanks," Aria replied, also avoiding looking in his direction as she took the empty seat beside Anna, offering an awkward smile. Alexander gestured for a fist bump, which Aria reciprocated, earning a chuckle from Anna. "You're the man," Alexander praised, and Aria chuckled. Nathaniel passed her a cup of coffee and began serving her breakfast automatically. "Bacon, eggs, sausages, pancake, honey or syrup?" he inquired as he carefully portioned out her food. "Honey, please." "Thanks," Aria replied quietly, her eyes fixed on her plate. She missed the amused glances exchanged by the others, trying to avoid looking at Nathaniel, but finding it difficult to ignore his hands as he served her. "Thanks," she said again, when he placed the plate in front of her, but Nathaniel didn't respond. "So are you two calling a truce or what? Especially since Nat saved Aria from those frat fools," Anna interjected. Aria froze. "Nathan saved me. From what? What happened?" she asked, dismayed. She had no recollection beyond sitting on a side couch at the party after consuming whatever Ethan had given her. Her gaze shifted from Anna to Ethan, then settled on Nathaniel. It wasn't much of a big deal, Nathaniel lied, playing down the seriousness, not wanting to upset her. "You were all under the influence of drugs and alcohol. And yes, you are correct. You shouldn't just consume anything Ethan or anyone else offers you," Nathaniel said in a cold, lecturing tone that made Aria's cheeks flush with embarrassment. She lowered her gaze, wondering what else she might have done that she couldn't remember. "Stop being such a killjoy, Nat. We'll heed your advice once we're back home, but this month of freedom is sure to be filled with plenty more. Adventures. Can you even imagine how dull my life will be cooped up in a lab with fellow nerds like me, dude? This is our only shot," Ethan exclaimed, provoking laughter. Nathaniel shook his head, a slight smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Just don't die, Ethan," Nathaniel said as Ethan playfully draped an arm over his shoulders. Nathaniel pushed him away, and the two engaged in a playful scuffle while Aria watched, noting the shift from seriousness to playfulness in Nathaniel's demeanor. Nathaniel's smile faded when he caught Aria's gaze. She held it for a moment before looking away and returning to her food while the others continued chatting. Nathaniel's eyes drifted to her lips, remembering their soft, full feel against his own hours before. He wondered how she would react, if he told her she'd kissed him. He was grateful he had stopped to think and not blindly followed her advances, or she might have woken up naked and thoroughly satisfied in his bed. The saying in vino veritas, Latin for in wine, "There is truth," echoed in his mind. Did Aria's animosity towards him stem from a hidden desire? Nathaniel's gaze lingered on her face, the memory of her pressed against him still vivid in his mind, igniting a primal desire within him. The thought of peeling off her layers of clothing to have her bare beneath him consumed him. Voices from outside on his porch drew his attention away from his thoughts, and he focused on the front door, watching as it opened. Andrew entered, followed by Agatha McCarthy. Nathaniel had always been ready for a casual lay, no matter the time, place, or day. He relished the company of girls who had stopped by for a spontaneous rendezvous, and he had anticipated that would be one of the aspects of school life he would miss. However, seeing the familiar blonde approaching him, beaming with smiles and a suggestive gleam in her eyes, Nathaniel felt an intense recoil that left him shaken, followed by a sense of anxiety he couldn't explain. "What the hell?" he cursed inwardly. He'd always enjoyed having Agatha McCarthy around, so feeling like he'd rather she never came amazed him. "Hey, handsome, happy graduation day," Agatha McCarthy said in a sing-song voice as she hurried over to him. She lunged at him, and Nathaniel caught and held her, feeling awkward and unsure of how to respond to her advances. "I thought I'd drop by to say a quick hello and let you see me in this hot dress before we're forced to wear that awful gown. And of course show you a graduation gift," she cooed between kisses. "That's nice of you, babe," Nathaniel replied in an awkward, dry tone, acutely aware that Aria Everly was right there watching. Ethan cleared his throat and said, "Good morning. And happy graduation day to you too, Agatha." Agatha McCarthy merely threw him a dismissive raised eyebrow before returning her gaze to Nathaniel. Aria couldn't understand the revulsion that welled up in her at the sight of the blonde girl clinging to Nathaniel. He was literally lifting her up with one hand to support her hold on him, making her cling to him like a leech. Aria wasn't surprised at how the girl reacted to Ethan and the rest of Nathaniel's friends. She was a legacy student with generational wealth, just like Nathaniel. But while Nathaniel wasn't a snob, something Aria found confusing and surprising, Agatha McCarthy was the exact opposite. She only made friends with students of the same wealth standing, and any girl who wasn't and was in her clique was used as a slave or errand girl. But the fact that Nathaniel was dating someone so shallow-minded somewhat justified one of the reasons why Aria didn't like him. "Let's go up to your room. We'll have more privacy there," Agatha McCarthy said, ignoring Ethan and acting as if he hadn't spoken. "I'm sorry, babe, but we're kind of on our way out," Nathaniel found himself saying, declining free sex, which left him in disbelief. Agatha McCarthy's perfectly trimmed eyebrows furrowed in surprise, mirroring Nathaniel's inner conflict. "Where are you going so early?" "We still have at least 3 hours to get ready and go to the hall," Agatha McCarthy said. "I need to sort out my friends," Nathaniel said. "Friends?" Agatha McCarthy repeated, as if she didn't realize they were not alone. "Ethan, Alexander, Anna, and Aria," Nathaniel replied, allowing Agatha McCarthy to touch her feet on the ground and move back from her. Aria was surprised to be listed as one of Nathaniel's friends and wasn't quite sure how she felt about it. The word acquaintance would have been more appropriate. Agatha McCarthy threw a dismissive glance at Ethan, Alexander, and Anna, screwing up her face at the sight of Anna. But when she looked at Aria, Aria noticed her blink, as if she were just noticing a fifth person in the room. Her eyes lingered longer on Aria, silently giving her a once-over. "It looks like you all slept here," Agatha McCarthy remarked. Nathaniel sighed when Agatha McCarthy turned to Aria and asked, "There are only 2 extra rooms. Where did you sleep?" Anna beamed. "Where else?" "Nathaniel's room," Anna replied with glee. Aria knew that if it were possible to be killed by a cold stare, she would have frozen to death under the other girl's glare. "Yeah, but not together," Aria replied, lowering her gaze, intending to ignore the girl. Nathaniel felt strange at Aria's remark. He knew Anna was just trying to poke fun at Agatha, but Aria, making it clear she wasn't interested or embarrassed at the thought of sharing his bed with him, grated on him. Normally, girls did the exact opposite and even went as far as claiming he had slept with them, even if nothing had happened. "Not that you remember," he heard himself say before he could process it. Cursing internally when Ethan and Alexander laughed, Aria threw him a cold stare. "You've made your point, Hawthorne. Let it rest," Aria remarked, carrying her coffee mug and leaving the table to go to the living room area. Nathaniel pressed his jaw together in simmering anger. "I don't understand, Nathaniel. It's as if you just let any stray into your house," Agatha McCarthy said, turning to face him. "Hey, watch it!" Anna countered in offense, but Agatha merely waved her hand dismissively. "Is there anything else you want, babe?" Nathaniel asked, unable to keep his growing irritation out of his voice. "Could you at least try to make it to my pool party later today? It's happening at Le Pouch Hotel. It starts at 10 and goes all night." "Maybe if you come earlier, you can see your gift," she said, closing the distance between them to cup his jaw. "Sounds like fun," Nathaniel replied, then glanced over his shoulder. "Do we have other plans for tonight, Ethan?" "Club 59 at 1 a.m., Ethan replied. Nathaniel nodded. "I guess we can make a quick visit, but we won't be staying for long as we have other commitments," Nathaniel replied to Agatha. She physically recoiled, saying, "We?" She questioned with disdain. "Me and my friends are a complete package. If you want me to come, my friend has to come too," Nathaniel said. Anna giggled. For clarity, he meant Ethan, Alexander, I, and Aria, Anna said. Nathaniel tried not to laugh. Anna was evidently enjoying needling Agatha McCarthy, and he couldn't blame her. Agatha was never nice or even cordial to Alexander's girl, even though Anna Morris was not just anybody either. Agatha just liked making everyone feel like she was better than them. "You're serious?" Agatha McCarthy asked. "Very serious, babe," Nathaniel replied. "Fine, bring your strays," she said in exasperation. "Can I at least get a proper kiss before I leave?" she asked, pouting her mouth. Nathaniel framed her face with his hands and pressed a kiss on her forehead. "See you later, babe, and congratulations," Nathaniel said. Anna didn't hold back a laugh. Agatha threw her a glare and left. But Nathaniel saw her pause on her way out to look at Aria, who was sitting in a corner with a coffee mug in hand. Nathaniel did the same, looking at Aria in that corner, pretending none of them existed. Nathaniel wished they were alone, and even though he couldn't imagine what they would say to each other if they were accidentally left alone somewhere together, he just wished he could have her all to himself. "Did you just turn down Agatha McCarthy?" Ethan whispered excitedly next to Nathaniel, causing him to chuckle. "I know, it feels like I'm coming down with something," Nathaniel replied with a grin. "What are you guys planning?" Alexander asked, throwing a berry at Ethan. "Nathaniel just made history, that's what," Ethan quipped, making everyone laugh. "So how are we doing this?" "After dropping off Alexander and Anna, can you take care of Aria, Nat? Her dorm's west of the cafeteria. You'll have to wait for her to get ready and then bring her along," Ethan whispered to Nathaniel. "Don't worry, I'll handle it." "We'll meet up at the auditorium entrance," Nathaniel whispered back, looking forward to the task. "We better hustle if we want enough time to drop everyone off and let Aria get ready before heading to the auditorium," Aria heard Nathaniel say. Her heart tightened at his thoughtfulness. She wondered if she was the reason why he had refused private time with Agatha McCarthy and why he would do that. As Nathaniel's jeep pulled up in front of Aria's dorm, she glanced through the tinted windows, surveying the area nervously. The last thing she wanted was for people to see her stepping out of Nathaniel Hawthorne's car and jump to the wrong conclusions. The presence of his bodyguards in another jeep behind them only added to the spectacle, and she cringed at the thought of all the attention. Thinking she was waiting for him to open the door, Nathaniel got out of the jeep and walked around to her side, offering his hand to help her down. Aria hesitated for a moment, then reluctantly took his hand, feeling a jolt of warmth at the contact. As she stepped out of the jeep, she quickly withdrew her hand, avoiding Nathaniel's gaze as she scanned the front lawn, hoping no one had witnessed their arrival. "Are you okay?" Nathaniel asked, his brow furrowed in concern. Aria shrugged, feigning nonchalance. "Yeah, why wouldn't I be?" "You're acting weird," he remarked, his own confusion evident. Aria met his gaze, feeling a flutter of nerves at the intensity of his stare. "No, I'm not," she insisted, a hint of defensiveness in her tone. "All right. We'll wait out here," Nathaniel said, turning away to walk back to the car. Aria wanted to tell him not to bother waiting, but she couldn't come up with the right excuse. With a frustrated sigh, she hurried into the dorm, avoiding eye contact with anyone she passed in the hallway. "Hey, wasn't that Nathaniel Hawthorne dropping you off?" a girl called out from behind her. Aria forced a smile, trying to appear casual. "Who's Nathaniel Hawthorne?" she replied, furrowing her brow in confusion. "I could have sworn it was you I just saw come out of his car," the girl muttered, clearly perplexed. "Happy graduation day," Aria exclaimed, eager to change the subject as she hurried off. "Strange girl," Aria heard the girl say as she retreated into her room. "Phew, happy graduation day." "Smooth, Aria," she muttered to herself, shaking her head. She frowned as she entered the living room, which looked like a tornado had swept through it. "Jessica," she called out to her roommate, but there was no response. "Looks like a disaster zone in here," she grumbled, quickly retreating to her room. Fetching the dress she had set aside for her graduation, she swiftly changed, mindful of the time, especially since Nathaniel was waiting outside. After applying a light layer of makeup, she styled her hair in loose French braids. A notification on her phone caught her attention, and she smiled as she read the congratulatory messages from her father and his hospital staff. The phone rang, interrupting her thoughts, and she answered it with a sense of anticipation. "Dad," she said softly into the phone. "Hello, Princess. Congratulations, I'm so proud of you. I'm already here in your school auditorium. I wish Mum were here," he said, his voice slightly shaky. "She would be so proud of you." "Love you, Dad," Aria replied. "Love you loads, Princess. See you after the ceremony," he said. After the call, Aria hurried out and spotted Nathaniel's Jeep parked in the lot beside the building. She glanced around nervously before making her way to the car. Nathaniel sat up as Aria opened the back door from the other side. Their eyes met briefly, and he couldn't help but let his eyes trail down her beautiful body before reverting them back to hold hers. "Thanks for waiting. Sorry I took longer. My dad called," she started to say. Nathaniel offered her his hand to help her up. Aria quickly accepted his help. He pulled her up and she sat gracefully beside him. "Andrew," Nathaniel said simply, and the man behind the wheel started the car. It took about a minute before they realized they were still holding hands. Aria slowly pulled away, and Nathaniel clenched his hand into a fist, placing it on his lap. "Is he coming?" Nathaniel suddenly asked, after a few minutes of awkward silence. "Who?" Aria answered, bemused. "Your dad," Nathaniel clarified, giving her a sidelong glance. "Yes, he's already here," Aria supplied. Nathaniel nodded and looked away. "How about your mum?" he asked. "My mum is dead. We lost her years ago," Aria replied. "I'm sorry," Nathaniel said, a note of sincerity in his deep voice. "It's okay, thanks," Aria replied, throwing him a warm smile. A companionable silence ensued, and then Aria asked, "How about your parents? Will they be coming?" Nathaniel shook his head. "They travelled abroad earlier today," he replied, giving her a searching gaze. Aria nodded, unsure of what to say. If it were her parents, she would want at least one of them to show up, but then what does she know about rich people's culture? "Do you have plans with your dad then?" Nathaniel inquired. "We're going to grab a bite after the ceremony, then he's going back home ahead of me. He's a surgeon. He has a patient to attend to later today, and I still need to pack and complete all necessary signing out processes before leaving," Aria supplied, not quite sure why he was asking. "When you leave, are you going back home to Sylvan Ridge?" Nathaniel asked. Aria shook her head. "I have an interview for my residency in New York," she answered. "New York? I stay in New York," Nathaniel said, amusement dancing in his eyes. For some reason, he loved the idea of seeing her after school, although he couldn't quite explain why. He just didn't want to entertain the notion of not seeing her again. Aria chuckled. "I know, you may not know it, but sometimes you let the accent slip," she teased. "That's often deliberately done whenever I am poking fun at Ethan," Nathaniel replied with a smile. Aria watched the transformation of his face as his hooded eyes dimmed and his sexy lips stretched in an adorable smile. She noticed his cheek grooves forming like a dimple whenever he smiled and the animated tilting of his thick eyebrows. "What hospital are you hoping to snag for your internship?" Nathaniel rasped, snapping her out of her reverie. "Evergreen Memorial Hospital. I'm hoping to be mentored by Dr. Rowan," Aria said. "Ah, of course. Only the best will do for Miss Aria Everly," Nathaniel quipped. Aria laughed, shaking her head at him. Nathaniel watched her, captivated by every expression she made, from the sparkle in her eyes, when she laughed to the way her lips curved into a smile. He found himself drawn to her, enjoying their conversation immensely. "Ethan, Alexander, and Anna are going to spend the next few weeks with me before we resume our lives. By this evening, they will vacate their premises and move in with me. We intend to complete all the signing out processes together, attend all necessary seminars, and attend the sending forth party organized for our department. You know, such," Nathaniel said, holding her gaze. "Okay," Aria replied. nervously worrying her lower lip, biting into the plump flesh as she listened intently to him. Nathaniel felt his breath quickening at the sight. He wanted so much to be the one doing that to her lower lip, and his change in mood reflected in his voice as he offered, "Join us." Aria's eyes widened. "Oh, I don't know. My stay here is just going to be 1 week, and then I have to go for my interview. I don't think I can afford going back and forth to attend the remaining events." Aria started to refuse. "I'll take you to New York for all your interviews and bring you back here so you can hang with us," Nathaniel interrupted. I can't let you do that, Nathan. I'm not even fun to be around, Aria said, laughing nervously. Her heart raced at the offer, her mind in turmoil over why Nathaniel Hawthorne would want her in his clique to the point of going to so much trouble to have her with them. "I know this might be hard to believe, but I'm not that much fun to have around either. That's why I keep Ethan and Alexander close. Anna is a bonus addition. She's quite a character. I promise you will love hanging out with us," Nathaniel said. He wished he could tell her he wanted her with him, but he knew she wasn't into him like that. And despite knowing that, he still wasn't prepared to let go just yet. "I'm sorry, Nathan, I can't," Aria said. Nathaniel nodded, feeling his heart constrict for some inexplicable reason. Upon arriving at the auditorium, Nathaniel saw that Ethan and the others were already waiting for them. The two got out of the car, and Aria hurried ahead of him to meet the others. The way she hurried ahead almost seemed as if she didn't want to spend one more minute with him. But Aria had hurried ahead because she didn't want people to see her with Nathaniel Hawthorne. After receiving their certificates, they all sat back in their seats, listening to the dean address them. After the dean's speech, the university president called on the best students in each department for departmental honors. Aria, sitting in her department section for medical students, was momentarily taken aback when she heard the university president say, "Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished faculty, and esteemed guests, it is with great pleasure that we announce the recipient of the Departmental Honors in Pharmacy. Please join me in congratulating Nathaniel Hawthorne for his outstanding achievement. Nathaniel has demonstrated exceptional dedication and academic excellence throughout his studies, achieving an impressive GPA of 3.9. In addition to his exemplary academic performance, Nathaniel has demonstrated exceptional abilities in extracurricular activities, exhibited impressive interview skills, and conducted thorough research on the causes and prevention methods of Alzheimer's disease. His research has garnered recognition from the Medical Association, which has chosen to validate it. His holistic contributions to both his department and the wider university community are truly commendable. Let us now applaud Nathaniel Hawthorne as he approaches the stage to receive this well-deserved honor. Congratulations, Nathaniel." As Aria stood up along with the other students, she watched Nathaniel walk to the podium, appearing like the epitome of a perfect gentleman. Despite herself, she couldn't help but feel proud of him. She was shocked by his achievement. She never would have believed he could reach such a high level of academic success with his lifestyle. It's no wonder he had called her judgmental. After Nathaniel received his plaques and medals, he descended the side stairs of the podium when the best student in the medical department was announced. A smile crept onto his face upon hearing Aria's name called. Instead of returning to his seat, he navigated through the section seats for the department to the biochemistry students section in search of Anna. Fellow students called out to him as he passed, and he exchanged handshakes while a few girls rose to hug and congratulate him on his achievement. Spotting Anna was easy. She had risen from her seat, waving to him in the back. Nathaniel made his way through the seat aisles to her and sat down, pulling her onto his lap. Leaning close to her ear, he whispered, "I want you to take Aria Everly shopping for swimwear for Agatha McCarthy's pool party and every other event we have planned for the month. And you get to buy anything you want if you can get her to come to the party tonight," Nathaniel said. Anna giggled as he produced his black MasterCard and handed it to her. "Anything I want?" Anna asked with devilish relish. "Anything," Nathaniel confirmed. "Take Andrew in the Jeep," he added. "She must not know I sent you," he warned, and pressed a kiss on her temple before leaving. Later on, Aria reunited with her father and the pair headed to a restaurant located on Brattle Street. Wow, that Hawthorne kid really is something, isn't he? His parents must be thrilled. At least he didn't squander their money on parties. He's restoring my faith in trust fund babies, Aria's father remarked as they started to eat. Yeah, Aria murmured in agreement, though inwardly she thought, if only you knew. She was still reeling from the news that Nathaniel Hawthorne had clinched the valedictorian spot. She recalled Ethan's remarks about him, which only served to irritate her further. Nathaniel was likely one of those effortlessly successful types who coasted through with minimal effort, which struck her as profoundly unfair. She felt she, or even Ethan or Alexander, deserved the honor more. Frustrated, she stabbed at her steak with more force than necessary. Easy there, princess. What's on your mind? Her father inquired with a chuckle, noticing her agitation. Aria shot him a glare in response. It's nothing, just... she grumbled, feeling defeated. It's okay, sweetheart. You did great. Nathaniel just edged you out by a few points, her father offered words of comfort, attempting to console her disappointment. Aria couldn't help but chuckle at her father's understatement. Only he would refer to the gap between Nathaniel's score and hers as a few points. Nathaniel had outshone her in every aspect, especially in extracurricular activities, and, of course, everyone lauded him as the epitome of good behavior. Ridiculous. Good behavior, my foot, Aria muttered under her breath, unable to contain her frustration any longer. Her father playfully scooped up some ice cream with his finger and booped her nose with it, eliciting a fake glare from Aria. Dad, please, I'm angry, Aria said, eliciting a chuckle from her father. You remind me so much of your mum when you make that face. Come on now, don't be a sore loser. Trust me, you were exceptional, and I'm incredibly proud of you. Dr. Sebastian Rowan would be foolish not to accept your application, her dad reassured her, bringing a smile to her face. Really, Dad? Aria beamed. Absolutely, princess. You're a chip off the old block. It's in your blood, her father replied proudly, causing Aria to beam with happiness. Suddenly, someone wrapped an arm around Aria's shoulders from behind, causing her to gasp. Hey! Aria began, only to be interrupted by Anna pressing her face against hers. There you are, bestie, Anna exclaimed with enthusiasm. Bestie, Aria echoed with furrowed brows, while her father sat back, amused, watching Anna overwhelm Aria. Offering her father a handshake, Anna introduced herself. Happy to meet you, Mr. Everly. I'm Anna Morris of the Morris Hotels. She shook his hand vigorously. Nice to meet you too, Anna Morris. I assume you know my daughter? Aria's father replied. She's my best friend, Anna declared. I am? Aria questioned, perplexed. Ha! She's so funny. We have a clique of 5. There's me, Alexander, Ethan. Ethan? Our own Ethan Blackwood, Aria's father interjected. The one and only, Anna happily confirmed. He's a good young man and smart too, Aria's father remarked. His GPA is 3. 6. Alexander's is 3. 4. And then there's Nathaniel Hawthorne. He's also part of our clique. We're all good friends, Anna added. That's an impressive group you have there. Well done. I suppose you're all quite competitive as well, judging by my sore-graped daughter here losing to Nathaniel Hawthorne, Aria's father commented. Dad! Aria exclaimed in embarrassment, displeased that her father had voiced that to Anna. Anna giggled. There's a bit more to it between Nat and Aria, Anna said in a conspiratorial whisper, leaning over the table. Anna! Aria called through gritted teeth, shooting her a glare. Okay, I'll zip it now, Anna said, enunciating her words. What was your GPA? Aria's father inquired. Suddenly, Anna started coughing and drank out of Aria's drink. Aria shot her a raised eyebrow, knowing she was faking it. Ah! We are not in the same department, Anna dodged the question before swiftly changing the subject. I'm sorry, but I must steal my bestie away. We have a party tonight, and we must look glamorous. All right, I understand when I'm being politely asked to leave, Aria's father remarked with a chuckle, but Anna? Aria attempted to protest, only for Anna to grab her arm and pull her up from her seat. Anna then deftly picked up 2 macaroons from the table and stuck one in Aria's mouth before turning to her father and beaming at him. It's a pleasure to meet you again, Mr. Everly. I promise you Aria is going to have the very best time, Anna declared. Okay, here goes. Aria's father started to say as he quickly counted a few $100 bills to give Aria. Have fun, hon. You deserve it, he added. "Thank you, Dad," Aria replied warmly. Anna hardly gave Aria's father time to hug her before dragging her away. When Aria saw Nathaniel's car waiting outside the restaurant, she tried to dig in her heels, but Anna didn't let her. "Where are we going?" Aria asked in alarm. "Shopping, babe, shopping," Anna replied, fanning herself with a black card and batting her eyelashes. "I hope that's not stolen," Aria joked, causing Anna to laugh as if she'd said something incredibly amusing. "Get ready for a fabulous day," Anna exclaimed with gusto as she pulled Aria into the Jeep. "Where to, Miss Morris?" Andrew asked from the driver's seat. "Harvard Square," Anna declared. Aria knew Harvard Square was one of the well-known areas for boutique shops and luxury brands, offering a range of exclusive and expensive shopping options. So, when Anna said they were going shopping, she meant they were going for high-end products. She couldn't resist looking down at the money her father had given her, knowing people with a few hundreds to spare do not shop in Harvard Square. "Anna, you're aware I can't simply allow you to purchase items for me that I couldn't afford on my own." "Right," Aria warned. "Why not? We're friends, aren't we?" Anna replied matter-of-factly. Aria paused, reflecting on the fact that her interactions with the girl were mostly limited to when she hung out with Ethan and Alexander, so she couldn't confidently label their relationship as friendship. Her own definition of friendship was quite different. However, Anna stared back at her so innocently that Aria didn't have the heart to deny her claim. "Yeah, I suppose we are," Aria conceded. "But still," she started to say, "Agatha McCarthy has given me a chance to get back at her for the last time before we leave, and you, Ma Amy, are being recruited into my team. I can't wait to see her eyes falling off with envy when she sees these strays tonight," Anna said, gesturing between them and wiggling her left eyebrow. Aria laughed. Aria and Anna arrived at La Porche Hotel clad in heiress swimwear, renowned for its opulent fabrics, enduring designs, and impeccable craftsmanship, albeit accompanied by a hefty price tag, surpassing even illustrious high-end brands like Chanel, Gucci, and Dolce & Gabbana. Aria couldn't shake off a sense of self-consciousness. Anna had chosen daring two-piece suits for them that left little to the imagination, though Aria found solace in the sophistication of her long beach cover-up. Her hair had been styled to cascade in wet beach waves, elegantly framing her shoulders and cascading down her back. Nails meticulously manicured, her face adorned with light nude makeup, her tan skin exuded a radiant glow under the dark sky, emitting an aura of affluence. Despite feeling like an imposter, Anna's forceful energy swept Aria along, denying her any chance to decline the grooming process. Indulging in the comprehensive pampering session after weeks of exams and pre-graduation chaos wasn't entirely unpleasant for Aria. However, as they reached the rear entry where the pool party was in full swing, Aria halted to survey the scene. Laughter echoed, the atmosphere electric with revelry. Unconsciously, her gaze sought out Nathaniel, who reclined on a lounge chair with Agatha McCarthy draped over him, their faces mere inches apart. Alexander and Ethan occupied adjacent lounges, completing the tableau. Aria's eyes flitted away when Agatha's laughter intermingled with Nathaniel's, culminating in a tender kiss between them. Before she had the chance to speak and hang out with Nathaniel, seeing him in this familiar state with girls only irritated her. But now, after spending the past hours with him and his clique, she discovered her feelings were a tad different. She felt almost a sense of proprietorship that conjured a cocktail of emotions inside her, one of which was bemusement and fear. The fear that these emotions weren't just her being judgmental, and that they could mean so much more was what was most scary. She had no business having any kind of feelings for Nathaniel Hawthorne. The boy was a disaster waiting to happen. He was a man whore, and the last thing she needed was to be distracted from her goals and be swept off by him. She knew if she dared to allow him to catch a glimpse of her vulnerability, he would devour her, leaving her changed forever. "Aria?" Anna's voice pierced through her reverie. "Shall we?" she prompted. Aria mustered a semblance of a smile, sealing her lips tightly before obediently following Anna's lead. "Whoa!" Alexander exclaimed as he caught sight of Anna and Aria approaching, prompting Nathaniel to glance in their direction. Hot damn, Alexander added, rising swiftly to meet Anna halfway, reaching out to cup her face and unabashedly kissing her in front of everyone. Hello, beautiful, he murmured, leaving Aria feeling awkward, especially when Nathaniel slowly sat up and boldly devoured her with his eyes. Aria wasn't the only one who noticed Nathaniel's unabashed appraisal. Agatha McCarthy also took note. It would be hard not to, given Nathaniel's obvious disengagement from Agatha as he shifted his attention to Aria. Over here, Aria, Ethan called, beckoning her over. Aria smiled with relief and hurried to join Ethan. When he offered her a drink and she hesitated, peering inside the cup, Ethan roared with laughter. I'm not falling for your nonsense twice, Aria scolded, earning more laughter from Ethan. You are such a chicken. Chicken, Aria. Cluck, cluck. Bork, bork, Ethan teased, flapping his arms like a chicken. Aria giggled and playfully swatted him on the arm. Silly goose, she muttered. Hey, fa ha ha. Here, Nathaniel called gently to Aria, their eyes locking as he offered her a bottle of Domaine Leroy Bourgogne Rouge, a high-quality Pinot Noir from Burgundy known for its finesse and complexity. Nathaniel had chosen it for its lower alcohol content. I brought this for Anna and you, he said. Aria accepted it with a nod of gratitude, trying hard not to let her gaze linger on his naked chest, especially with Agatha McCarthy shooting daggers at her. Thanks, Aria said quietly, forced to look away when Anna and Alexander joined her. Hello, McCarthy. Nice party, Anna said in a honeyed tone. Agatha rolled her eyes and attempted to lean on Nathaniel again, but he excused himself and walked away. Agatha McCarthy waited until Nathaniel was out of earshot before turning to Aria with a cold gaze. Sorry, I didn't catch your name, she said icily. Aria acted as if she hadn't heard, pretending to ignore the girl until their eyes met. I'm talking to you, skunk. I asked you for your name. Agatha McCarthy repeated, her tone dripping with disdain. Hey, why are you talking to her like that? Anna snapped, coming to Aria's defense. I believe this is my party and I have the right to choose not to mingle with skunks, Agatha McCarthy declared loudly enough for everyone to hear, causing murmurs and chuckles to ripple through the crowd, with phones at the ready in case of drama. Agatha, back off, Ethan warned in a low tone. Or what? Blackwood? If it was not for Nathaniel, you would not be here. So shut your trap and don't speak unless you are spoken to, she shot back at Ethan, whose eyes flashed with anger. But before Ethan or anyone else could retaliate, Aria spoke up. I'm Dr. Everly. And you are? Aria's voice was cold, detached, with a hint of superiority that flushed Agatha McCarthy's face with anger, especially when Anna giggled and said, She is just Agatha McCarthy. And to Agatha, Anna added, Did you by any chance receive any honorary recognition in your department today, Agatha McCarthy? Or do you prefer to be known as the McCarthy girl for the rest of your trust-funded life? Pathetic, Anna said. Aria watched as Agatha McCarthy looked around, realizing that people were watching and laughing. She turned her cold gaze back to Anna and Aria. The two of you should watch your backs. And as for you, Everly, stay away from my man. Nathaniel is mine, Agatha McCarthy growled. Aria scoffed, making Agatha flush with anger. Who says I want him? Aria replied in a bored tone, taking a sip from the drink Nathaniel had given her, while returning the girl's challenging glare. Agatha got up and stormed away. Phew, that was intense, Alexander said. Way to go, Aria, Anna said, fist-bumping with Aria. Don't let the witch get to you. Did you see her checking us out? Her eyes literally turned green. Ha ha, Anna quipped. Nathaniel, who had gone to the restroom to collect himself, returned. The sight of Aria in her swimwear had affected him in ways he couldn't explain. He'd had to leave before it became evident that he was turned on. She looked incredibly sexy and beautiful. He strongly wished she'd worn it just for him. He didn't like that other people were there to catch a glimpse of her shapely form, and was glad she kept the cover up on. The sight of her had hit him like a ton of bricks, and he found himself feeling all kinds of emotions. He'd needed to take a breather. He watched Aria indulging in the finger food he had arranged for the group. Typically, he refrained from eating at student functions, wary of diluted drinks and varying food quality. Despite the upscale reputation of Le Pouch Hotel and Agatha McCarthy's likely efforts to provide top-notch refreshments, he remained cautious, particularly with Aria in mind. He couldn't afford to take any risks, especially that evening. He didn't want her to accidentally consume anything that would mess her up again. He wanted her to be alert for when he finally had the chance to be alone with her, so they could continue the conversation they were having earlier. He hadn't given up on convincing her to stay with them for a month just yet, and sending Anna after her was the beginning. Anna had truly scored with him for being able to succeed in his mission for her. As he settled back into his lounging chair, Nathaniel couldn't help but steal glances at Aria. She was elegant, her every movement graceful. Despite her composed exterior, he sensed a hint of vulnerability in her demeanor, a layer beneath the surface he longed to uncover. He found himself captivated by the way her eyes sparkled with hidden depths, her lips forming a delicate curve that hinted at secrets untold as she smiled at whatever Anna was whispering to her. "You ladies enjoying yourselves?" he said, attempting to break through the barrier between them. Anna beamed at him, but Aria's response was more reserved. She only glanced at him once before reverting her attention to her food. Nathaniel couldn't shake the feeling of frustration at her aloofness, a desire to unravel the mystery she presented. What is it with this girl, he mused inwardly, grappling with the enigma that was Aria Everly. Her indifference grated on him, a stark contrast to the vivacious energy of Alexander's girl. "Yup, thank you, Nat, you rock." Anna's voice broke through his reverie, drawing his attention back to the present. Aria sipped her drink, fighting an inner battle not to look at him again. He was standing by his lounge with his shorts riding down his waist, showing the V of his pelvis. With just one glance, Aria had noticed the obvious bulge in his trousers, and every time she glanced at him, she couldn't help but trail her eyes down below his waist, making her skin burn and her breath quicken. She made a resolve not to look at him again. Still, her eyes found their way to his waist, trailing downward again. But this time Nathaniel caught her. Their eyes met before she quickly looked away. Aria's cheeks flushed with embarrassment as Nathaniel chuckled softly, a warmth spreading through him at the sight of her discomfort. He found himself mesmerized by the way her gaze flitted away, a fleeting moment of vulnerability that tugged at his heartstrings. When she took another sip of her drink, Nathaniel said, "Perhaps we'll need another bottle of that. It seems like Aria is thirsty." Aria's cheeks and the back of her neck grew warm with embarrassment as Nathaniel teased, causing her to fumble and drop the bottle, her movements slowing as she met his gaze. His laughter faded away as they locked eyes, his breath quickening. "What are you doing to me, Aria Everly?" Nathaniel thought to himself. Around 1 a.m., Anna rose to use the restroom, and Aria decided to accompany her. As they made their way toward the hotel's back entrance, they crossed paths with Agatha McCarthy and her group of friends at the poolside. Agatha McCarthy shot them a malicious glance and whispered something to her friends, eliciting giggles from the group. "Ignore them," Anna muttered to Aria as they approached. But just as they passed the group of girls, Aria heard Agatha McCarthy hiss, "Slut," loud enough for her to hear. Aria gritted her teeth and brushed off the insult, but as she walked past Agatha McCarthy, she felt a sharp tug on her hair, followed by a shove from behind. Turning around to face Agatha McCarthy, Aria found herself falling backwards. Anger surged within her at the vindictive glint in the girl's eyes. "Aria," Anna called out in concern. Aria, determined not to fall alone, reached out and grabbed onto Agatha McCarthy's hair as she plummeted backward. Together they plunged into the chilly water. Agatha struggled to break free from Aria's grip and inadvertently swallowed pool water in the process. Pushing away from Agatha McCarthy, Aria tried to swim back to the surface, only to realize that her bikini top had slipped off. Panicking, she searched frantically underwater until a loud splash drew her attention, and a large towel was draped around her shoulders as Nathaniel gathered her into his arms. "Are you okay? Did you hit your head?" Nathaniel asked urgently, his voice strained with worry. "I'm fine," Aria replied, locking eyes with him, noticing the fear in his eyes. She wondered why he seemed so concerned for her safety, momentarily forgetting that they were not alone and that their intimate moment was visible to onlookers. But at that moment, all she could focus on was how he held her as if she were precious. "Put your arms around my neck," he instructed, and Aria complied as he began to wade out of the pool. "Nathaniel?" Agatha McCarthy screamed, sounding mortified, realizing that Nathaniel had chosen to help Aria instead of her. "What were you thinking, Agatha? She could have hit her head, damn it! What the fuck is your problem?" Nathaniel growled at her, his anger palpable. "It was an accident, Nat. Charlotte, tell him you saw her pull me," Agatha screamed, rallying her friends to provide false testimony. "It wasn't an accident, you lying bitch. I saw you and heard you when you called her a slut. Besides, she's not even with Nathaniel, you idiot," Anna countered, her anger evident, coming to Aria's defense. Aria paid little heed to Agatha's protests, the sound of her sobbing fading into the background like a distant echo. All she could focus on was the rhythmic thumping of her own heart, amplified by the closeness of Nathaniel's. She noticed his irregular heartbeat and wondered if it stemmed from excitement or concern for her well-being. The possibility of the latter prompted her to instinctively press closer to him, seeking solace in the shelter of his neck. She couldn't be sure, but she sensed Nathaniel's embrace tightening around her, offering a silent reassurance in the midst of turmoil. "Ethan!" Nathaniel called out as he carried Aria out of the pool, and his bodyguards stepped forward to assist. "I'm right behind you, Nat. Let's get her out of here," Ethan responded. "Nathaniel, I swear it was an accident," Agatha McCarthy pleaded, but Nathaniel didn't stop. Nathaniel had witnessed Agatha McCarthy discreetly pulling Aria's hair, but he hadn't anticipated her shoving her into the pool. Despite it being June, the weather was chilly, and so was the water at that late hour. His heart had lurched with profound fear, various horrifying scenarios playing out in his mind. He had moved swiftly, just as Andrew had. Andrew must have seen the entire incident unfold and anticipated the impending disaster because he had tossed a towel to Nathaniel right before Nathaniel dived into the water. Submerging to reach her, wondering why she hadn't come out from under the water, fearing the worst until he caught a glimpse of her exposed chest. The image imprinted itself on his mind, despite his state of mind. She was remarkably beautiful, and his fear for her safety mingled with the dread of others seeing her naked chest. He seethed with anger towards Agatha McCarthy for pulling such a despicable stunt. If Aria had hit her head, he would have let Anna loose on the girl. Even now, with Aria safely in his arms, he could still feel himself trembling with adrenaline. And he knew Aria could sense it too. She looked into his eyes with furrowed brows, reassuring him that she was fine, as if she could tell he was genuinely shaken by the incident. He nodded in reassurance. Andrew draped another dry towel over Nathaniel's shoulders, while Anna vented her anger about drowning Agatha. Her colourful and imaginative words seemed amusing now, but they hadn't been a moment earlier. Note to self, never get Anna this furious. Alexander teased. "Nobody messes with my friend," Anna retorted. And at that moment, Aria realized she could indeed call Anna a friend. Upon reaching Nathaniel's car, Andrew quickly opened the back door for Nathaniel to gently lower Aria onto the back seat. Nathaniel felt a pang of emptiness as his arms suddenly felt devoid of her warmth, longing to have her pressed against him again. Taking charge, Anna ensured they had privacy as she fetched a change of clothes for Aria. Nathaniel walked back to join the others behind the jeep. "Are you still up for Club 59? Ethan asked. "I don't know," Nathaniel replied, running his fingers through his now wet hair. "Perhaps we should take the club back to your place and continue the party there. That way we can crash anywhere afterward without worry," Alexander suggested. "That's okay by me," Ethan responded with a shrug. "Let's wait and ask the girls. I think they went through too much trouble to have it wasted," Nathaniel replied. Meanwhile, Anna was assisting Aria in changing into the dress they had packed for Club 59, taking the opportunity to change as well. "How do you feel? Are you okay?" Anna asked, concern evident in her voice. "I'm fine, thank you, Anna." "I'm glad I didn't go down alone. If they're going to post that online, it's going to be both of us humiliated," Aria said, eliciting a giggle from Anna. The two fist bumped. "Way to go! I'm not going to lie. I feel a sense of satisfaction seeing that blonde bimbo drenched like a skunk," Anna exclaimed, using Agatha's favorite word. The two erupted in a fit of girlish giggles. "And I wish I recorded the look on her face when Nathaniel dived in to help you. It was priceless, I tell you." "Priceless," Anna said with devilish relish. Aria smiled, contemplating how it must appear to everyone and hoping he wasn't just doing that to score with her. "I think Nat likes you," Anna murmured, smiling at Aria. You've had too much to drink. You're beginning to imagine things, Aria scoffed dismissively. No, babe, I just have eyes, Anna retorted, blinking comically, eliciting giggles from Aria. But on a serious note, I think I'm happy to witness what's happening to him. It's high time some girl knocked him off his high horse, Anna said, her tone turning somber. Aria met her gaze and flashed a smile before looking away. What the other girl was implying was quite scary. I'm not that girl, Anna, Aria replied firmly. Okay, if you say so, Anna replied, with a smile that unsettled her. There was a mysterious glint in her eyes that made Aria suspicious. The girl must know more than she was letting on. Nathaniel overheard Aria and Anna's laughter and let out a sigh of relief. Glad that she was fine. Let me go and ask them. It sounds like they're both finding humor in the situation already, Alexander offered. Thanks, man, Nathaniel replied, and Ethan simply gave Alexander a friendly pat on the back. Approaching the other side of the car cautiously, Alexander called out, Are you ladies decent? Yeah, Anna replied. Alexander joined them, throwing Aria a smile as he drew Anna close for a side hug. You ladies still up for clubbing tonight? Alexander asked. What do you say, Aria? Anna inquired. Aria shrugged. I'd hate to ruin your plans. What do you all want? Aria remarked. I suggest we move the club to Nathaniel's place. That way, if we end up getting wasted, we'll already be in a judgment-free zone, Alexander said, prompting chuckles from the girls. Okay, Nathan's place it is, Aria agreed, feeling a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Though reluctant to acknowledge it, she wasn't prepared for the night to end just yet. A part of her yearned to delve deeper into what was truly unfolding between her and Nathaniel. Despite her self-preservation instinct warning her against it, she couldn't suppress the desire to spend more time with him. With him, Aria? A voice sounded in her head, alarm bells ringing. Not with him in that sense, just in the same space with him. She corrected herself internally. Nathaniel anxiously awaited Alexander's return, half expecting Aria to choose to leave and return to her dorm. He racked his brain trying to devise a way to persuade her to stay with them. That bloody McCarthy girl, he seethed inwardly. If she hadn't pushed Aria into the pool, we'd be on our way to the club by now, and I'd have the chance to spend the entire night with her. He fumed silently. He held his breath as Alexander approached, bracing himself for the news that Aria wanted to leave. However, when Alexander announced they voted to take the party to Nathaniel's gaze dropped, processing the unexpected turn of events. Is Aria coming? Nathaniel inquired, needing confirmation. Yes, Alexander confirmed. Watch out, Nat, you're edging dangerously close to something you've always dismissed as cheesy, Ethan whispered near his ear. And what might that be? Nathaniel queried, a playful smile forming at the corners of his lips. Having a girlfriend, buddy, a girlfriend, Ethan quipped, eliciting chuckles from both Nathaniel and Ethan. Idiot, Nathaniel muttered fondly. As they left Agatha McCarthy's pool party venue, Nathaniel swiftly dialed a well-known restaurant close to their school for home delivery. Packed into a single Jeep, Ethan occupied the front passenger seat, while Anna and Alexander sat in the back alongside Aria and Nathaniel, making placing their order a breeze. Nathaniel spoke briskly into the phone, opting for speaker mode. Good morning, this is Nathaniel Hawthorne calling from Beacon Hill. I'd like to place a dinner order for delivery. Sitting beside Nathaniel, Aria struggled to maintain the smallest space between their bodies, finding his cologne mingled with his body heat, and the soft huskiness of his voice irresistible. Drawing her to him like a moth to a flame, she longed to lean on him rather than sit upright like a rod, apprehensive of any physical contact. Her leg muscles pleaded for relaxation and her back felt stiff. Holding her hands together on her lap, she resembled a child ready to be scolded by the school headmistress. She wished she could just let go and relax. I'm ready to take your order, Mr. Hawthorne, a male voice filtered through, redirecting Aria's focus. All right, thanks. For the main course, I'll have your filet mignon, cooked medium rare, with a side of truffle mashed potatoes and grilled asparagus. Please add a bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon. Nathaniel rasped. Aria couldn't resist stealing a glance at him, captivated by the delicious depth of his voice as her eyes feasted on his side profile. Ladies, Nathaniel started to say, turning his face sideways and catching Aria's gaze on him. Aria watched as his eyes darkened, holding her gaze before he added, "Place your order," invitingly. "I'll have lobster linguine, tossed in a creamy Alfredo sauce with hints of garlic and Parmesan cheese, served with a side of warm garlic bread," Anna quickly stated. Then turning to Nathaniel, she asked, "May I please add a bottle of Chardonnay?" Nathaniel shrugged. "State what you want, Anna," he replied, prompting a smile from Anna. "So should I add a bottle of Chardonnay?" the voice on the other end inquired. "Yes, please," Anna answered. "Aria?" Nathaniel nudged her, holding her gaze. "What do you want?" he asked in a husky whisper. When she hesitated, Nathaniel said, "Do you trust me?" Aria arched an eyebrow at him and he chuckled. "I meant with your order," he added. "I suppose," she replied in a soft, sultry tone. The corners of Nathaniel's lips twitched into an amused smile. "Do you have any allergies I should note?" Nathaniel inquired. Aria shook her head. "Can you give me a hint of preference, beef or fish?" he asked, their eyes locked on each other. "Fish," Aria said, and he nodded. "Then you should have what I'm having." "Choice of dessert?" Nathaniel asked. "I love anything chocolate," she replied, her voice almost inaudible. Nathaniel's gaze settled on her lips, and Aria watched as his tongue slowly flicked out to moisten his bottom lip. "Nice choice. I love chocolate too," he rasped. "Let's add grilled shrimp and avocado salad, drizzled with a tangy citrus vinaigrette, and a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc, if you please," Anna chimed in, assisting Alexander with his order. "Gourmet Wagyu beef burger for me, please," Ethan interjected, topped with caramelized onions, foie gras, and aged cheddar, served with a side of truffle fries and a bottle of craft beer. Nathaniel paused, waiting for everyone to finish ordering before adding, "For dessert, we will have chocolate soufflé, served with a dollop of whipped cream and a dusting of edible gold flakes." "Okay, sir, would that be all?" the voice inquired. "Andrew, did you make your order and for the rest of the team?" Nathaniel asked. "Pizza will be fine, boss," Andrew replied from behind the wheel. "Please add 5 boxes of your classic margarita pizza, adorned with fresh buffalo mozzarella, vine-ripened tomatoes, and fragrant basil leaves, with 10 mojitos, if you would be so kind," Nathaniel said automatically. "Thanks, boss," Andrew said. "Would that be all?" the voice inquired again. "Yes, and thank you," Nathaniel replied, ending the call. As his friends chatted away, Nathaniel settled back and let out a sigh. It had been quite a day with a graduation ceremony and all. He figured going back to his apartment for a relaxing evening was just the perfect ending to it. The events of the day replayed in his head, him being the valedictorian, and then having a video call with his parents, who insisted on publicizing his achievement. And then came the drama with Agatha when he, Ethan, and Alexander arrived at her party early. He shook his head in recollection. He disliked the necessity of being blunt with her. He'd needed to remind her she wasn't his girlfriend and should quit acting like it, but her refusal to accept no for an answer was grating on his nerves. Shortly before Anna and Aria arrived, Agatha had sprawled over him on the lounging chair, threatening to make their relationship public. He had chuckled at her audacity. The idea that she believed she could do that without his consent was absurd. Yet, he found himself surprised by his reactions to Agatha McCarthy and the other girls who had made advances towards him that day. It was the oddest thing he had ever experienced. He had turned down all those girls because of his fixation on Aria Everly, the girl who seemed indifferent to him. It was utter madness. If Agatha McCarthy had succeeded in hurting Aria, he would have hated himself for forcing her to come. Fortunately, it didn't end in disaster. He was simply relieved she was safe. With the thought of her, he turned his face in her direction and noticed how stiffly she sat beside him. Leaning his head against the chair's headrest, he studied her quietly until she met his gaze. "You do realize that I'm a human being, and I get hurt too. With the way you're sitting beside me, one would think I'm some kind of plague," he rasped. Sorry," she whispered sheepishly, looking away. But then her eyes sought his again. "If I promise not to devour you at the slightest chance I get, will you relax?" Nathaniel rasped in a low voice meant only for her ears. Aria exhaled softly, looking away, and slowly started to relax her body. "Better?" he probed. Aria responded. With Aria relaxing her posture, Nathaniel could feel her soft body pressing against his now. He was wearing a pair of shorts, and the dress Aria changed into ended above her knees. As a result, one of her bare legs brushed against his, igniting a profound need within him. He fought to resist the temptation to reach out, to cup her delicate neck, to tenderly caress her skin, and to draw her face closer to his own so he could press his lips against hers. He watched as she leaned back, shutting her eyes with her face turned towards him, imitating his posture in her bid to give Anna and Alexander a little privacy. Nathaniel grew acutely aware that her bare arm was now also pressed to his, laid out side by side. He tried to hold still, but that didn't last, and gradually he lost the zeal to even contain his desire. He desperately wanted to touch her. He moved his hand inadvertently, brushing the back of his hand against hers, and watched as her eyelids fluttered in response, but she didn't pull away. As if he'd lost control over his hand, he found himself raising it to flatten his open palm against hers, brushing her skin slowly with the pads of his fingers, tracing the lines in her palm. And all the while, he didn't stop looking at her face. He watched as she breathed through parted lips in response to his touch, and still she didn't withdraw from him. Nathaniel trailed the pads of his fingers up and down her slim fingers, feeling his heart quicken at her sharp intake of breath. He grew bold and continued upwards to the inside of her elbow and back down to her pulse. He could feel his body tightening with desire, his need for her heightening. He took a deep breath and held it in when she gingerly reciprocated the gesture, her fingers caressing his hesitantly. Jesus, Nathaniel breathed internally, feeling like he was on fire with every brush of her skin against his. He resisted the urge to take her hand and make her touch him more intimately. When she trailed her fingers down his arm to use her index finger to draw on his palm, she opened her eyes, peering into his. Nathaniel felt a rush of emotions, unable to describe the sensation, but he was completely captivated by her. The gleam of desire in her beautiful eyes made his heart soar, with the confirmation that she wanted him too. Aria felt herself losing control of her senses and body, her brain clouded with desire as Nathaniel's touch felt like a magical vapor clouding her head, stripping away her defenses and leaving her vulnerable, way more vulnerable than she could have ever envisaged. The two held each other's gusts, lost in their world, letting their emotions surface with no inhibitions. Nathaniel imagined combing his fingers through her long, curly tendrils, using them as an anchor as he devoured her. The moment was interrupted as Andrew pulled up in front of Nathaniel's building. Nathaniel didn't want to break away from the magical moment. He wished he could order everyone to get the hell out of the car and give them privacy, but he knew he must not. The last thing he wanted was to scare her off. He was the first to get out, heading inside and up to his room and into his bathroom without waiting for the others. He avoided his reflection in the mirror as he undressed and stepped under the cold shower, taking quick, shallow breaths. Aria followed the others into the house, feeling somewhat in a daze, aching and wanting that connection back with Nathaniel. Ethan hurried to put on some music, while Anna rushed to turn on the large screen TV in the living room. Alexander went around to switch on only 2 floor lamps, plunging the spacious room into a dimly shadowed ambience, with upbeat music playing in the background. Ethan then headed to the kitchen, and Aria followed him, though her eyes kept drifting to the stairs. "What can I do to help?" Aria asked, trying to infuse some life into her voice and not dwell on the surreal moment of weakness she'd shared with Nathaniel on their ride to his house. "The food will probably take about 30 minutes to get here, but that doesn't mean we can't raid Nathaniel's fridge in the meantime," Ethan said. Aria laughed. "What do you say to grilled cheese?" Ethan offered. "I say bring it on," Aria replied. Ethan chuckled. "Where's your dad staying?" Ethan asked as he busied himself making sandwiches. "He has already gone back. You know how he is. Work, work, work," Aria replied. "Ah, well, at least he came," Ethan said, flashing her a smile. Aria studied him quietly before saying, "I'm sure your mum would have loved to come too, Ethan." Ethan threw her a side glance. "I know, Aria. It doesn't stop me from wishing things would be different this one time, you know. And I know if I had told Nathaniel, he would have made it happen. But you know how proud she is. She would rather work herself to death than take charity," Ethan said. Except it wouldn't be charity. You are my family now, Nathaniel said as he joined them. Aria felt her heart leap at the sound of his voice before she looked in his direction. Thanks, bro, Ethan said, and the two shook hands, pulling themselves into a side hug. Give it a few months and she won't have to work again, Nathaniel said as he pulled open the refrigerator and brought out a beer. Turning to look at Aria, he gestured at the beer, asking if she wanted one. She shook her head, holding his gaze briefly before looking away. Nathaniel had changed from his loose baggy shorts and loose top into a raglan sleeve shirt over grey sweatpants. Aria thought he looked good in them, but then wondered if there was anything that Nathaniel didn't look good in. I'm looking forward to it, bro, Ethan said with a sigh. She did everything to put food on the table and make sure I could be here. The least I can do is take care of her, Ethan said. He offered Nathaniel sandwiches, but he shook his head, refusing it. You know I'll always be here if you need me, Nathaniel said. Appreciate that, Nat, Ethan replied. Aria smiled at Ethan when he glanced her way and reached out to pat the back of his hand. You can recruit me into that fold too, Ethan. I would love to help in whatever way I can, Aria added. You are already in the fold, Aria, with your dad secretly giving my mom free treatment. Come on, your dad is the best, Ethan said fondly. Aria felt her heart swell with pride. If you want to freshen up, you can go use my room, Nathaniel offered as he leaned over the counter to peer into her eyes. Why? Am I smelling again? Aria quipped with a raised eyebrow. Nathaniel's eyes twinkled with laughter. You do hold grudges, don't you? He remarked, taking a sip straight from his beer bottle without breaking eye contact, his grey eyes dark and intense. Do you have the habit of offering help with insults? Aria fired back. It depends if the person in question is adorably insufferable, he quipped. Aria felt her heart race at the daring glint in his eyes, with the sexy curve of his lips, oozing both arrogance and lethal charm that left her salivating and wanting more. So then it is a habit of yours to temper goodwill or compliments with insults? Aria countered. Nathaniel grinned, took his drink, and drew back. If you want a detailed rundown of my personality flaws and all, you are going to have to stick around, Dr. Everly. Nathaniel replied, and subtly bowed his head, winking at her before strutting away to join Alexander and Anna, who were dancing in the living room area. Aria couldn't help but follow him with her eyes, watching as he whispered something to Alexander that made the other boy laugh. Anna playfully smacked him on the chest and he moonwalked backward, displaying an impressive flexibility that was enthralling to watch, with the obvious rippling of his muscles under his fitted shirt. He was a typical eye candy. Here, Ethan offered as he placed the triangularly shaped sandwich in front of her. Thank you, Aria said, flashing him a grateful smile. You know, he's not the villain you'd sum him up to be, Ethan said as he took the stool beside her. You mean Nathan? Aria asked as she took a bite out of the crunchy sandwich. Ethan nodded. He has his flaws, and your official meeting wasn't great, but deep down Nat is a good person, Ethan said. I didn't expect you to say otherwise. He is your best friend, Aria teased, giving him a side nudge. Ethan chuckled. Well, you are my friend too, so I'm caught between you two, Ethan responded. Then his laughter slowly disappeared, his face etched with seriousness, and he added, I've known him for 5 years now, and I can tell you that he is a different person around you. Thank God, I would hate for you to be associating with a guy who goes about being a jerk to everyone, Aria said in relief. Ethan laughed. Be nice, Aria, he quipped. Then added with a bit of solemnity, Nat is not one to get emotionally involved like that. Let me clarify. I understand he can sometimes act like a jerk and be oddly distant, but that doesn't mean he's a bad person. Just different, Ethan said in defense. Aria sighed. Fine, I will be nice to your friend. Did he put you up to this, though? Aria replied, dimming her eyes suspiciously. Ethan chuckled and nudged her playfully on the shoulder. I just want you two to get along, Ethan said. Aria nodded, giving him a smile. Are you guys inviting more people to this party? Aria inquired. Ethan shook his head. No. Why? Don't tell me you're getting bored already, Ethan answered with a raised eyebrow. Aria chuckled. I'm simply curious, she said in defense. However, she'd asked because she was interested in whether Nathaniel had invited more girls, but hesitated to ask directly. Come then, dance with me, Ethan invited, pulling her off the chair to join the others. Upon dragging her to the center of the room, Ethan started to dance the nay-nay dance, albeit in a comical way that made her bend over laughing. "Don't act like you can do better," Ethan challenged. "Oh, yeah," Aria replied, and parted her legs, squatting down with knees bent, and started to gyrate her upper body while bouncing to the beat. "Woohoo!" Anna and Alexander cheered. Ethan broke into laughter. Nathaniel stood back with a surprised smile, watching her lock and twist to the popular hip-hop beat with elegant ease. A dancing challenge broke out. Nathaniel found he enjoyed seeing Aria in that mood, playful and happy. He reveled in the sight. When their order arrived, Ethan hurried off to assist Andrew and the rest of Nathaniel's men with setting the food on the dining table. Aria glanced at Nathaniel, who leaned against a nearby wall, observing as the food was brought in. Meanwhile, Alexander and Anna were engrossed in an intimate embrace, swaying slowly to the music. "Want to dance?" Aria called out to Nathaniel. He turned to meet her gaze and hesitated in responding, causing Aria to feel a pang of nervousness. "What? You don't want to dance with me?" she challenged him. Nathaniel pushed away from the wall, approaching her with a deliberate, almost predatory stride that quickened her heartbeat. Aria immediately regretted her boldness as Nathaniel pulled her close, causing her to gasp softly as his arms enveloped her, pressing her head against his chest. For a moment she stood stiffly in his embrace. "Now you know why I hesitated. The music playing isn't hip-hop anymore. If you'd been paying attention, you would have noticed. I was just surprised you wanted to dance to this particular song with me," Nathaniel whispered close to her ear. "I knew it wasn't hip-hop," she replied in a defensive tone. "Liar," Nathaniel said in a husky whisper. "Explain why it feels like I'm holding a statue, then." Aria closed her eyes, reveling in his warmth, his deep voice, and the sensation of his breath against her skin. His cologne enveloped her, transporting her to another realm where only his presence mattered. Aria wrapped her arms around his waist, pressing her face against his chest, feeling his steady heartbeat beneath her ear. Nathaniel felt her hold on him, her arms gingerly wrapping around him, and he struggled to contain a deep tremor within himself. He buried his nose in her hair, savoring her exotic scent and the warmth of her body against his. His fingers slowly traced the contours of her back, brushing against the nape of her neck as she melted into his embrace, lost in the pleasure he was conjuring in her. "Is your name short for something?" Nathaniel asked softly, lowering his face to brush against hers. Needing to speak, to distract himself before he could do something he would regret, like lifting her off of the floor and carrying her up to his room. "Ariana," she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathaniel cupped her jaw with his hand, gazing into her eyes. "I love your name, and before you accuse me of being cheesy, I'm not just saying that," he said, his smile captivating her. Aria couldn't help but giggle softly in response. "No, I wasn't going to accuse you of being cheesy." "I, however, was wondering if you say that to all the girls you brought here," she teased. "I don't bring girls here," Nathaniel replied. When Aria raised an eyebrow at him, silently expressing her skepticism, he added, "Fact. And you're the only one I've invited to stay." "Are you suggesting I should feel special?" Aria mocked. "No, you know you are special," Nathaniel replied, his tone turning serious, surprising Aria. She quickly rolled her eyes, dismissing his comment as ridiculous, but Nathaniel grinned nonetheless. "Congratulations on being the valedictorian. Too bad I don't have a gift to give you," Aria said, laying emphasis on the word gift. Nathaniel laughed. "Fuck me, are you jealous?" he teased in a low, sexy tone. "Why should I be jealous? I'm right on your tail in grades, and I don't go around giving guys my body as a gift," she retorted pointedly. "No, Ariana, I won't consider the gap between our GPAs as right on my tail, and no one would be happier than I to hear that you don't give your body as a gift," Nathaniel replied, his playful demeanor replaced by a serious tone that momentarily left Aria speechless. He had called her by her full name, with a possessiveness that sent a shiver down her spine, scrambling her common sense and prompting her to blurt out the next question. "Did you get your gift from Agatha McCarthy?" Aria asked. "I wasn't interested, Ariana," he answered truthfully. "Nat," Ethan called, interrupting Nathaniel's moment with Aria. Nathaniel reluctantly drew back from her, holding her gaze for a moment before glancing down at her chest, noticing the signs of her arousal. He swiftly removed his shirt, causing Aria's eyes to widen in surprise. Then, without a word, he approached her and wore his shirt for her before walking away. Aria let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. Puzzled by his actions, she inhaled his scent lingering on the shirt he had given her, feeling enveloped by his presence. The raglan sleeve top hung loosely on her frame, still carrying the warmth of his body. Wrapping her arms around herself, she joined the others. The only available seat was beside Nathaniel, so she cautiously took it, and he promptly placed her order in front of her. "Thanks," Aria muttered without looking at him. Throughout the meal, the boys debated vigorously about the best soccer player. Aria faintly gathered that Nathaniel supported Manchester City, Ethan favoured Manchester United, while Alexander seemed indifferent to European football, leaning more towards American football. Aria's attention, however, was captivated by Nathaniel's demeanour as he sat at the table. His right hand rested casually on the table, invitingly positioned, as if beckoning her to intertwine her fingers with his. Glancing towards Alexander, she noticed Anna sitting on his lap, feeding him while they engaged in conversation with Nathaniel and Ethan. The room was bathed in a dim candlelight glow, with soulful music playing in the background, mingling with their laughter and banter. Aria found herself fixating on Nathaniel's hand, marveling at its masculine beauty. "Aria, what do you say?" Nathaniel's voice broke her reverie, causing her to blink and meet his gaze, wondering what she had missed. "Are you up for a game of Never Have I Ever and Truth or Dare?" he proposed. "They're just looking for an excuse to get wasted," Anna teased. Aria chuckled and shrugged. "Why not?" she agreed, glancing between Anna and Nathaniel. Nathaniel flashed her a wolfish grin, stirring a mix of fear and excitement within her. When she lowered her gaze to his hand on the table, she was disappointed to find it now resting in his lap. The boys swiftly rose to clear the table, arranging 5 cups in the center. Nathaniel left and came back wearing a shirt now and holding an unopened bottle of brandy for the boys and red wine for Aria and Anna. "Seriously? You're being discriminating right now?" Anna jokingly protested Nathaniel's choice of drink for them. Nathaniel laughed. "No, dearie, I'm being a gentleman," he replied playfully. "Who's going to go first?" Alexander asked. Pick me," Anna said playfully, eliciting chuckles from the boys. "Fine, Anna, go first," Ethan responded. "Never have I ever had sex with a stranger," Anna said with devilish relish. The boys groaned and obediently took their drinks. "Why am I not surprised?" Aria muttered under her breath. Anna laughed and quickly added, "Never have I ever had a friend with benefits," before bursting into giggles as Ethan, Alexander and Nathaniel all reached for their drinks. "Wow," Aria murmured, while the boys shifted on their seats with discomfort. "What's the story behind that?" Aria inquired. "It's less messy is all," Nathaniel replied sheepishly. I just remembered why I hate this game," he grumbled, prompting laughter from Ethan and Alexander. Aria watched the exchange with amusement. "Truth or dare, then," Anna proposed. "That would be better," Nathaniel replied with a grin. "I'll go first," Ethan offered. "Alexander, truth or dare?" "Dare," Alexander replied promptly, earning laughs from Aria and Anna. "Coward," Ethan teased. "Striptease, sucker." "A drink it is," Alexander replied, causing Aria and Anna to laugh. "Truth or dare?" Alexander asked Ethan. "Truth," Ethan replied. "What age did you lose your virginity?" Alexander asked. "Really?" Ethan protested. "Payback time," Alexander retorted, while Nathaniel roared with laughter. "A drink it is," Ethan conceded. "Who's the coward now?" Alexander taunted. "Truth or dare?" Anna asked Nathaniel. "Truth," he replied. "Aria, would you like the honors?" Anna asked, beaming mischievously. Aria pretended to ponder her question to Nathaniel, biting her lower lip. Nathaniel's eyes riveted on her lips. "Have you ever been in love?" Aria asked. "Oh, straight for the jugular. Way to go, babe," Anna exclaimed, fist-bumping Aria, who laughed along. "No," Nathaniel answered, but still took a drink, needing it to calm himself. "Why?" Aria pressed. "I thought I was only required to answer just one question," Nathaniel replied with a smirk, prompting an eye roll from Aria. "My turn," Nathaniel said, turning to Aria. "Truth or dare?" "Dare," Aria said, regretting her choice when she saw the grin on Nathaniel's face. Alexander and Ethan burst into laughter. "I dare you to kiss me," Nathaniel said confidently. "Why do you think I wouldn't do it?" Aria retorted challengingly, lifting her eyebrows. "Because I know you would rather. I dare you to go dance outside topless than..." Nathaniel started to say, but Aria pushed back her chair, approached him and grabbed his jaw, silencing him with a kiss. The others cheered and urged her to prove Nathaniel wrong. As she pressed her lips to his, Nathaniel felt a surge of electricity coursing through him. His heart skipped a beat as she teased his lower lip with her teeth, making him yearn for more. When she pulled away, Nathaniel's chest heaved with labored breathing. Her taste lingered on his lips, throwing his mind into turmoil, just like the first time they had kissed. Although brief, she reminded him why he couldn't stop thinking about her. Excitement and fear surged through him, knowing that if she had prolonged the kiss, he would have lost control. "My turn to ask Anna," Alexander announced, breaking Nathaniel's trance. Blinking, he watched as Aria returned to her seat, smiling triumphantly at Anna, who giggled in response. She turned to look at him, and he found himself lost in her intense gaze. The urge to run his tongue over his lips was overwhelming, but he resisted, not daring to display his vulnerability with her, watching him so intently. The four continued drinking and playing games until 5 in the morning. Alexander was the first to rise, carrying the dozing Anna to their room. Ethan followed suit, his steps unsteady as he walked away. "How drunk are you?" Nathaniel asked Aria, who giggled in response. "Don't worry, I can still make it to the couch," she reassured him, gesturing towards the living room area. Nathaniel rose from his seat, took hold of Aria's wrist, and lifted her into his arms, making her gasp. Locking eyes with her, he carried her upstairs to his room. "You're sleeping here," he rasped, gently placing her on the bed. Aria watched as he turned to leave. "Where will you sleep?" she blurted out, causing Nathaniel to pause in his tracks. "Is that an invitation, Ariana?" he asked in a low, husky tone. "No," Aria quickly replied, but Nathaniel grinned in response. "Relax, I didn't think so," he quipped, starting to leave. Despite her instincts telling her to remain silent and let him go, Aria found herself speaking up. "Where will you sleep, Nathan?" Nathaniel halted and turned back to face her, coming back to stand by the bed. He held her gaze and asked, "Truth or dare?" Aria's heart raced, unsure why he was bringing the game back into play. "Truth?" she responded cautiously. "Have you ever had sex, Ariana?" Nathaniel rasped, his question causing Aria's eyes to darken with a mix of bemusement, embarrassment, and anger. She wondered if his intention was to mock her for not being as promiscuous as him, or if he was trying to make a point. "No, not that I'm ashamed of it," she retorted.